Greed is a nasty thing, isn't it? Especially when it involves hunting down magical creatures just to live forever. Meet our girl Xian, a total sweetheart, and this icy, gorgeous, white-haired figure known as Yuechin. They might look like a match made in heaven on the surface, but their story is built on a foundation of ancient secrets and a whole lot of "I'm going to ruin your entire life." You see, in this world, the more powerful humans get, the more they fear the Reaper. These power-hungry mortals realize that if they can get their hands on a Niden, basically a magical soul battery, from the legendary ethereal cats, they can literally change their destiny and become immortal. But while those greedy old men are hunting for power, our poor heroine Xian is living through a total nightmare. "Sorry, please stop crying," a voice whispers as she huddles over a massive, fluffy white creature in the middle of a sun-drenched forest, her heart absolutely shattering. This isn't just some random animal, it's a bond being ripped apart by blood and betrayal. As the life fades from her companion, Xian desperately screams through her tears, "Wait for me, I will return, I promise that I won't die." Fast forward through the heartbreak, and it's finally time for some cold, hard vengeance. A mysterious figure stands tall amongst a pile of broken bodies under the moonlight, blood painting the trees red as she hunts for the monsters who caused all that suffering. We catch a glimpse of a golden, cat-like eye, and let me tell you, it is full of absolute malice. "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" A terrified goon shrieks, trembling in the dirt, only for Yuechin to look down at him with total boredom and say, "Sorry, you're not the one I'm looking for." This savage queen doesn't have a single drop of mercy left for these lowlifes. "I won't feel sorry for killing the likes of you," she declares coldly, ignoring the man's pathetic pleas for his life right before she silences him forever. This is just the beginning of her hunt, and honestly, we are here for the chaos. While our girl Xian usually looks like she's in a dream when she's with the mysterious Yuechin, her reality is currently a frantic game of hide-and-seek. "Young miss," the servants cry out, searching every inch of the Liu guarding establishment for their vanished lady. Master Liu is absolutely fuming, grumbling that a girl like her has no business wandering off when she should be behaving. Despite the missing runaway, the mission can't wait, and the guards head out to transport a massive, mysterious chest. As they trek through a suspiciously quiet forest, the veterans start to wonder if this peaceful route is actually a trap. One guard notes that the view is surprisingly lovely compared to their usual muddy trails. But the mood shifts instantly when they realize one of their recruits has a very familiar voice. It's Xian in disguise. She tries to play it off with a cheeky, "Heh, daddy," but he's ready to explode, telling her to go home and find a husband already. Their bickering is cut short by the deadly swish of arrows flying through the trees. "Protect the cargo and the young miss," her father bellows, drawing his blade as the ambush begins. Poor Xian is left reeling, completely caught off guard by the sudden violence. A gang of thugs steps out from the brush, mocking the new faces that have wandered into their domain. Their leader, a mountain of a man with a wicked grin, asks if they're ready to follow the rules of the road. Master Liu tries to play it cool, offering to pay a fee to keep things civil. However, when the bandit demands a whopping 300 taels, Xian's jaw hits the floor. "Are you robbers or something?" she snaps, only for the leader to laugh in her face and confirm that yes, they definitely are. Her father forces her to be quiet, agreeing to the massive payment because the cargo is simply too valuable to lose. Xian can only watch in frustrated silence as her father settles the debt. The bandit leader cackles with delight, signaling his men to let the caravan pass. They slowly roll past the group of killers, the air thick with unspoken threats. But our girl just can't help herself, muttering "savages" as they walk away. Unfortunately, the bandit leader has ears like a hawk, and he freezes the moment he hears her. Our girl Xian is out here just trying to vibe, but these thugs have zero chill. One of the goons starts hassling her, demanding to know what her problem is. Don't pull," she warns, but it's too late as he snatches her hat away. The thug's eyes go wide as he realizes the person he's been bullying isn't a boy at all. "Yeah, it's a girl, and she is a pretty one," he shouts, and of course he's a total creep about it. Her allies, Psyking and the guards, immediately draw their blades to protect her. The lead thug just laughs, deciding the price of their passage has officially changed. Either they leave the cargo or let the girl have fun with them for a few days. "Don't worry, we won't break her," he sneers, making our girl's skin crawl. Suddenly, he grabs her from behind, holding a knife to her throat and threatening to kill her if anyone moves. Xian, being the dramatic queen she is, tries to act cool and tells her dad to just leave her behind and go. But the brave act lasts about 2 seconds before the reality sets in and she's screaming, "Daddy, help me," at the top of her lungs. The guards charge forward in a blur of motion, desperate to save her. "Kill them, brothers," the boss orders, his face twisted in a disgusting grin. He makes a run for it, dragging poor Xian along like a trophy. She struggles against his massive arm, shouting for him to let go. He just gives her a sickening look, telling her she'll be a nice girl for them. He's laughing like a total maniac, thinking he's actually going to get away with this. But then out of nowhere, swish. Our mysterious and powerful Yuechin descends from the heavens like a literal god of vengeance. With one brutal high-flying kick, he slams the thug's head straight into the dirt. The creep is left groaning in the mud, his face looking like a smashed potato while Xian finally breaks free. Yuechin stands over him, his aura absolutely terrifying and his eyes glowing with a cold light. With a crack and a swoosh, he deals with the remaining threat in a heartbeat, moving faster than the eye can see. Blood sprays across the ground, just barely missing our stunned heroine. Xian can only stare up in shock, her heart probably doing backflips at the sight of her savior. Yuechin looks down at her with those piercing orange eyes for just a moment before the others catch up. As he disappears back into the trees, the ground is left stained with the price of messing with the wrong lady. "Are you all right, young miss?" the guards shout, rushing to her side. They can't believe the carnage left behind by the mysterious white-haired man. They quickly check her for injuries, telling the others to take the half-dead thug away. Her father, psyching, pulls her into a worried embrace, relieved she's still in one piece. The remaining thugs are absolutely shaking in their boots, realizing their boss just got folded like laundry. The group decides it's time to get out of there before more trouble arrives. "Just leave it to the authority," her father says, trying to regain his composure. Xian is still in a total daze, her face covered in dirt and scratches from the scuffle. But as she looks toward the sky where Yuechin vanished, she isn't thinking about the danger anymore. "I am in love with someone," she realizes, her heart finally choosing its master after that legendary rescue. At the Liu guarding establishment, a father is desperately trying to talk some sense into his daughter. He reminds her that even if that mysterious man saved her life, he's still a cold-blooded murderer who shouldn't be trusted. "He's no good man, just forget about him," he commands, but his words are falling on deaf ears. Our girl is completely smitten, gushing about how elegant the stranger looked even while he was ending lives. Her father is absolutely losing it because she's treating a literal killer like some sort of romantic hero. While they argue, the man in question, Yuechin, is actually perched right outside the wall, listening to every word. He watches them with a cold, piercing gaze, his hand hidden deep within the rustling leaves. Miss Liu stops mid-sentence, sensing that someone is watching her from the shadows. She stares intently at the tree line, her intuition screaming that she's not alone. But after a moment of silence, she shrugs it off, assuming it's just some stray cats playing in the garden. Deep in the woods, a hand suddenly clamps down on a throat. It's Yuechin, and he's caught our girl Xian trying to sneak up on him. He looks ready to snap her neck, his expression icy and unforgiving. Xian immediately starts shrieking, complaining that he nearly scared the soul out of her body. She demands to know what he's doing lurking around the Liu estate, but he just gives her a dismissive nothing. Xian isn't buying it for a second and asks if he's still hunting for those people, even though this doesn't seem like the kind of place they'd hide. Yuechin doesn't bother explaining himself and simply leaps away, forcing Xian to scramble after him while shouting for him to wait. To try and lighten the mood, she suggests they go grab some sugar-coated haws, but Yuechin is far too focused on his mission. He explains that because of Niden, their enemies could have incredibly long lives. Xian realizes with a shudder that if those people are still alive, they'd be hundreds of years old by now. She calls them half-ethereal, but that word causes Yuechin's blood to boil. "They don't deserve that name," he growls, his face darkening with a century's worth of resentment. The duo eventually makes it into town under the bright afternoon sun. They stop at a shop, but the owner looks insulted, asking if Xian is trying to play him for a fool with the junk she's offering. Xian doesn't miss a beat and activates a hypnotic illusion, her eyes glowing with power. To the merchant's dazzled eyes, the worthless stone suddenly transforms into a heavy, glittering gold ingot. The greedy man is suddenly all smiles and bows, thanking her profusely as they walk away. Xian is feeling herself in her new, practical outfit, even if she has to admit that looking like a man makes it way easier to move around. Back at the Liu guarding establishment, our girl Xian is busy obsessing over her newest obsession. She's currently cooped up in her room, humming a happy tune while admiring her latest masterpiece. She's whipped up a sketch of the mysterious, white-haired hottie she met, and honestly, she thinks she's a total artistic prodigy. When her maid Huan brings in some tea, Xian can't wait to show off the goods. "Take a look, doesn't this look nice?" she asks, basically beaming with pride. She's totally whipped, claiming that even though they only met once, his handsome face has been permanently branded onto her heart. Our heroine is basically floating on a cloud of delulu and flower petals at this point. Huan is totally sold on the hype, admitting she's getting curious about this mystery man too. The maid points out that someone that eye-catching must be known by someone in town. That's all the motivation Xian needs. "You are right, Huan," she cries, her eyes lighting up with a dangerous level of determination. Xian bolts out the door, shouting that she's going to find the man she loves, leaving her poor maid trailing behind. Little does she know, the man in question, Yuechin, is already wandering the market with a red-haired companion. They're busy discussing the strange nature of lookalikes after spotting a pair of identical twins nearby. Yuechin notes that blood relations usually explain why people look the same, but his companion thinks it's not impossible for strangers to share a face just by pure chance. Yuechin seems skeptical, musing over the idea of such a massive coincidence. Meanwhile, Xian is putting in the legwork, showing her sketch to every random person on the street, but she's getting nothing but no's. Her maid is worried she'll get in trouble with her father if they stay out too long, but Xian is on a mission and won't be stopped. Suddenly, two sketchy-looking dudes approach, claiming they saw exactly who she's looking for. "Actually, we know him really well. Do you want us to take you to him?" they ask with the most suspicious smiles you've ever seen. Our girl, being a total cinnamon roll who trusts way too easily, falls for it hook, line, and sinker. They lead her toward a shortcut in a dark alley, and before she can even realize something is wrong, one of them covers her mouth with a drugged cloth. Her maid Huan screams for help at the top of her lungs, luckily catching the attention of Yuechin and his friend as they walk by. People in the crowd recognize Huan as a servant from the Liu establishment, and she desperately cries out that someone drugged her young miss and took her away. Yuechin stops in his tracks, realizing something is very wrong. He approaches the sobbing maid, his presence immediately commanding the scene. With a gaze that could cut through ice, Yuechin demands to know one thing. Where is it, the place where she was kidnapped? As the tension surrounding the Liu family reaches a breaking point, our poor heroine finds herself in a total bind, tied up and facing a mountain of a man who's out for blood. The leader of these thugs can't believe his eyes, shouting, "A girl like her can chop off a man's head? Ridiculous." His lackeys quickly explain that while she was there, a mysterious man was the one who actually did the deed before vanishing into thin air. The boss isn't interested in excuses and demands they wake her up so he can get some real answers. A bucket of cold water later, and our girl gets a rude awakening. She opens her eyes only to see the most terrifying face staring back at her, causing her to scream at the top of her lungs. Terrified, she tries to play the "do you know who my father is" card, claiming her dad is the boss of the Liu guarding establishment. But the boss just finds her annoying, slamming his fist into the ground with a massive bam to silence her. "If you don't want to be smashed like this floor, you better tell me what happened," he growls. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, a red-haired girl is busy sniffing out clues. She points the way forward for the mysterious Xian, whose long white hair catches the sunlight. Passersby can't help but wonder who these striking figures are as they navigate the forest. The red-haired girl pulls out a notice and realizes the person being hunted looks exactly like the person standing right next to her. "It looks like the same person to me," the maid whispers in the background as she compares the drawing to Xian. When asked if he knows the person on the poster, Xian simply gives a cold, "I don't." Back in the lion's den, the boss is grilling our girl about her mysterious savior. She confirms that a total stranger saved her and chopped off his brother's head. The boss is fuming, demanding to know why she'd put up notices everywhere if she doesn't even know the guy's name. Our girl, ever the optimist, explains that's exactly why she posted them, to find her hero. Unfortunately, she hasn't found a single clue yet. This sends the boss into a blind rage as he screams, "Are you kidding me?" Fed up with the lack of progress, he orders his men to lock her up and demand a massive ransom from the Liu family. He threatens to kill her and her entire household if they don't pay up for his brother's death. Our girl is tossed unceremoniously into a dark, dusty cell, crying out in pain. But the nightmare isn't over, as a creepy guard looms over her with a disgusting smirk, leaving her trembling as she asks, What do you want from me?" The rescue is in full swing as Yuechin and our girl Xian stand together, ready to face the darkness of this bandit den. One of the goons screams in confusion, demanding to know who the hell these intruders think they are. Hyun isn't in the mood for talk, coldly stating that it doesn't matter who they are, they're taking the girl and leaving. Xian's eyes light up with hope when she sees her friend, crying out Hyun's name in pure relief. But things take a turn for the gross when a sleazy bandit starts rambling about how much he's enjoying this, thinking God sent him 2 more girls to play with, only for a spray of blood to cut his disgusting fantasy short. Xian blinks, completely stunned as she asks what just happened, wondering if that creep's head really just flew off. Emerging from the shadows like a literal god of death is Yuechin, her orange eyes glowing with a terrifying, cold intensity. While the maid rushes over to untie Xian, frantically asking if she's okay. Xian can only stare up at her savior and ask if she really came all this way to save her. Yuechin doesn't do emotional reunions, simply turning away and commanding everyone to move. Suddenly, the heavy footsteps of the big boss echo through the room as he demands to know why it's so noisy. He stops dead in his tracks, staring at the pool of blood on the floor with a look of pure horror. "Who the hell are you?" he roars, pointing at Yuechin. Yuechin just gives him a sidelong glance, her expression as sharp as a blade. The boss's eyes widen as he connects the dots, a blue spark of realization hitting him. He looks down at the mangled remains of his comrade and realizes he's face to face with the person who chopped off his brother's head. Hyun just tilts her head, acting totally innocent as she asks if that thing on the floor was supposed to be his brother. This sends the boss into a blind rage, and he smashes a chair into pieces as he prepares to strike. "I'm going to take revenge for my brother today," he screams, lunging forward with a massive, ground-shaking slam. Xian and the maid can barely keep up with the movement, shocked by how fast a guy that big can be. But when the dust settles, Yuechin is standing there completely unharmed. She casually dusts off her shoulder, complaining that she just got this new outfit and didn't want him getting it dirty. Insulted, the boss calls for his ultimate weapon, a massive, spiked iron mace. He brags that nobody has ever survived a hit from this thing and promises to finish her in one shot. He brings the mace down with a deafening bam, shattering the stone floor. The girls scream in terror while the boss sports a wicked, confident grin, but his smile fades instantly when a voice from behind him whispers, "You missed." Yuechin stands there perfectly composed, mockingly asking if he's really supposed to be the boss around here. Before he can even turn around, Yuechin vanishes into a blur of speed. The boss spins his head around like a madman, sweating buckets as he realizes he can't even see her. Yuechin ignores him entirely, telling the girls that since they're untied, there's no reason to linger. The boss tries to command them to stay, yelling that they aren't finished yet, but he's already a dead man walking. In a flash of silver light, slashes of energy rip through the air. The remaining bandits watch in absolute terror as their leader is systematically sliced to pieces. One of them can only stammer out the word monster, as Yuechin stands over the carnage. She doesn't deny it, her cold gaze confirming that she is indeed something beyond human. Xian and her maid are trembling, wondering if they should be scared of their savior too. But Yuechin just gives the order to go, and Xian's fear immediately turns back into pure fangirl energy as she follows behind her. How did you find him? He's even here to save me? Oh my god. She gushes, her heart doing backflips. The poor maid is still worried the bandits might chase them, but Xian assures her they're too busy mourning their dead to notice they're gone. Suddenly, Yuechin stops in the middle of the forest path. She whispers the words Red Fox to Huan, and Huan immediately catches the drift. While Xian warns them that it might be dangerous to go back there, Huan just smirks and snaps her fingers with a pop. A massive towering inferno erupts, a literal boom that lights up the sky. Xian and the maid are blown back by the sheer force of the explosion. Watching as Huan stands silhouetted against the flames, Yuechin watches the hideout burn with a stoic expression, while the screams of the remaining bandits echo through the trees. Nobody will come after you anymore, Huan says coolly as the hideout is reduced to ash and smoke. The maid is left shaking, realizing just how scary these people are, and our girl Xian can only stare at them in awe, wondering who these mysterious, powerful figures really are. Under the pale moonlight, our girl Xian is finally back at the Liu guarding establishment, but she's already in the hot seat. Her father is demanding answers, so she spins a wild tale about how those thieves accidentally burned down their own den while she managed to sneak out. He's skeptical, asking if it's really true that all those criminals are dead, and the poor maid can only stammer out a nervous yes. Once Xian retreats to her room, the interrogation continues as the old man asks the maid what really happened. The maid sticks to the script, sweating bullets while claiming she just happened to meet the young miss halfway back to the estate. The father sighs, thinking Xian is just incredibly lucky to escape a forest fire without a scratch, while the maid grovels in apology for not protecting her better. He warns her to keep a tight leash on our heroine from now on, especially since those missing person notices Xian plastered everywhere were a total shameful embarrassment to the family name. Hiding behind the door and eavesdropping, Xian realizes her freedom is officially toast. I'm going to be grounded again, she groans, realizing this means she won't be able to see her mysterious savior for quite a while. She doesn't even know where he lives, but her mind drifts back to the heat and smoke of the forest. In the flashback, she boldly asks the white-haired figure, "May I ask who you are?" while his red-haired companion snaps that she's being way too noisy. The girls are left completely stunned by the duo's intensity. The maid whispers, "Isn't he the one you're looking for?" And Xian immediately tries to get a name, determined to pay him back for saving her twice now. "I need to pay you back," she insists, her eyes full of hope. Yuechin just gives her a cold, unbothered stare that would freeze a volcano. Our girl is clearly smitten anyway, staring back with a serious blush creeping onto her face. But Yuechin isn't looking for a reward or a romance. He just tells her, "Please take the notice down. It's kind of troublesome for me." He coldly explains that he didn't even mean to save her. He was just passing by to hunt down a specific target. He admits he's killed many of his kind before and that his actions had nothing to do with her, leaving Xian momentarily disappointed before her heart does a total 180. Then his gaze turns sharp and terrifying as he delivers a final warning. "Please don't tell anyone what you saw." Back in the present, Xian is totally delusional, deciding that even if he kills people, his elegant style makes him a hero. She's spiraling into a full-blown crush, obsessed with how handsome he is, though she worries if the red-haired girl is his lover. While she frets over her rivals, we cut back to Yuechin and his companion sharing a meal under the stars. The companion notes that Xian looks remarkably like her, but Yuechin dismisses the concern, claiming people just look alike and he doesn't mistake the girl for anyone else. Even though they look like a match made in heaven, Yuechin's nights are anything but peaceful. "Come here," a voice echoes through a haze of red robes. The vision promises a life together, but it's quickly stained by splatters of deep crimson. Yuechin jolts awake, his heart hammering against his ribs as cold sweat beads on his forehead. He sits up in the dim light, haunted by the fragments of a past he can't escape. Outside, the bamboo forest whispers with a suspicious rustle. Yuechin quietly checks through the screen, finding Xian lost in a peaceful slumber, beneath the glow of a slivered crescent moon. He vanishes, moving with the lethal grace of a shadow over the rooftops. Down in the courtyard, two guards are failing miserably at their one job. "The young miss is probably out cold by now," one mutters. His companion isn't interested in sneaking out for a drink, knowing full well he'd be punished by dawn. They start gossiping about the mystery man who saved Xian, wondering if they'd even stand a chance against someone who finished off a gang of thieves in a snap. Yuechin watches them from the darkness, his expression unreadable as he listens to their mindless chatter. As morning light hits the establishment, Xian finally emerges, stretching her arms only to see the guards passed out at their post. She's about to head back when a glint in the grass catches her eye. Reaching down, she discovers a vibrant green jade ornament. "I've seen this before," she muses, her mind racing back to the mysterious gentleman. Her eyes go wide as she realizes he must have been standing right here while she slept. "He was actually here," she shrieks internally. One of the guards wakes up and nearly gives her a heart attack, but she puts on her best nothing to see here face. face. The guard awkwardly begs her not to report them for napping on the job. When he asks about the treasure in her hand, she lies through her teeth, calling it a pretty rock for her flower pot. She ducks back inside before he can ask more questions. Safe behind closed doors, our girl completely loses her mind. He's such a gentle person, he must have been worried about me. She squeals, practically vibrating with joy. She clutches the jade close, catching a lingering scent of him, and resolves to find a way to return it to its rightful owner. While things are heating up between our main leads, the sun rises over the quiet estate. Servants exchange morning greetings as they begin their daily chores. Our girl is sitting inside, looking a bit restless as she waits for her morning meal. A maid brings in breakfast and water, noting that her young miss is up surprisingly early today. "Is my dad out for work?" she asks, trying to sound casual. The maid sees right through her, asking if she's planning another secret escape the moment he's gone. Our girl quickly denies it, joking that her dad would break both her legs if she tried. Apparently, her father is worried about a mysterious man with dangerous tricks who appeared out of nowhere. She dismisses the concern with a sigh, tired of the overprotectiveness. Claiming she needs more sleep, she tells the maid to leave the food and let her nap in peace. Meanwhile, over at the bamboo house, Xian is ready for a fun trip to the market. But she finds Yuechin frantically searching the floor on her hands and knees. "Have you seen my jade ball?" Yuechin asks, her eyes wide with panic. Xian reminds her she usually wears it on her waist, suggesting it was lost during their outing yesterday. Yuechin doesn't waste a second and bolts out the door to find it. Xian follows, grumbling about why she cherishes that stupid ball so much. Under the bright afternoon sun, we see that our girl actually found the treasure. She holds up the glowing green orb, realizing how valuable it must be. She starts daydreaming about the moment she returns it to the handsome stranger. In her head, Yuechin is a noble son, and returning the ball leads to a romantic union that would make her father proud. But there's one tiny problem. She has no idea where the mysterious hunk actually lives. Back in the busy streets, Yuechin is desperately scouring every corner. She looks absolutely devastated, drawing confused stares from the locals. Xian tries to calm her down, warning her that getting too emotional might cause her to lose control. Yuechin asks if Xian can smell the ball's location, but Xian stubbornly says she won't tell even if she did. Desperate to find a lead, Xian suggests checking the local pawn shops in case someone found it. Secretly, Xian is fuming with jealousy, wondering if the ball was a gift from another woman. They head to a shop, but the owner is being a total jerk and tells them to leave. Xian isn't having it and slams a heavy bag of coins on the counter to change his tune. He shows them his collection, but none of them are the right one. Yuechin sighs, realizing their search is far from over as the trail goes cold. As the tension between our leads thickens, we see a glimpse of what could be, with Yuechin and our girl looking like the ultimate power couple. Meanwhile, Xian is busy browsing the local market, though she doesn't seem particularly impressed by the selection. The shopkeeper tries his best to make a sale, suggesting a replacement for an item she previously lost. Back with our heroine, she's busy being a total sweetheart, clutching the jade ball and deciding she needs to return it to Yuechin immediately. But speak of the devil, a hand suddenly drops onto her shoulder and she nearly jumps out of her skin. Yuechin is standing right there looking as stoic as ever as he asks, "Why are you here?" Before she can even stutter out an answer, a clumsy passerby with a giant basket comes barreling through. The impact sends our girl flying straight into Yuechin's chest, and let's just say he's a lot firmer than he looks. It all happened so fast. She screams internally, her face turning a shade of red that would put a tomato to shame. She's completely frozen in his arms, her heart doing backflips. She looks up at him, absolutely dazed by the proximity. Huh, is the only thought left in her brain as the romantic atmosphere reaches a boiling point. But of course, the universe loves to ruin a moment, and that moment comes in the form of a very loud, very angry Xian. "Oh, what are you two doing?" she bellows, looking like she's about to breathe fire. Xian is fuming, demanding to know why Yuechin just walked off, but her eyes quickly lock onto the green treasure in our girl's hand. Yuechin calmly states that the item belongs to him, but Xian isn't having it. She goes full villainous mode, barking, "We went all the way to save you. This is how you repay us, by stealing." Our poor girl tries to explain she was returning it, but Xian snaps back, "You were planning to sell it, aren't you?" She tells our girl to just hand it over already, clearly not believing a word she says. The air is thick with distrust as our heroine looks at Yuechin, feeling totally misunderstood. She holds the jade ball out, swearing on her life that she was just about to give it back. But then disaster strikes. A random thief zooms past and snatches the jade right out of the air. "Hey," they shout, but the guy is already halfway down the street, weaving through the crowd like a pro. The thief is feeling himself, laughing, "Hump, I've been stealing for years, no one could ever catch me." He ducks into an alleyway to make his clean getaway, but suddenly stops dead in his tracks. Our girl is already there, blocking the exit with a wooden staff and a look that says she is done playing games. "Gigi, give it back to me," she demands, though her voice shakes just a little. The thief just scoffs, "You're only a girl, move aside," as he charges at her. "Big mistake, buddy," a foot suddenly shoots out, and the thief goes flying face first into the dirt with a satisfying plop, while Yuechin and Xian watch the karma unfold from the shadows. We see our main duo together, but the peaceful vibes are about to be shredded. Our poor heroine Xian finds herself in yet another life-threatening disaster, frozen with a blade pressed against her throat. Her companion isn't making things any better, screaming, "Why did you come here? You're such a pain, you know." Xian tries to defend herself, crying out that she was only trying to help, but the thug holding her snaps at her to shut her mouth. The kidnapper turns his attention to the others, sneering that if they want the girl to stay safe, they better hand over the jade ball and act like nothing happened. The red-haired girl doesn't flinch, demanding that he return what belongs to them if he wants to get out of this alive. This backfires immediately as the thug realizes Xian's life isn't worth the treasure to them, making him rethink his leverage. Xian, terrified and shaking, begs them to just give him the jade ball, even offering her own family's money just to end the nightmare. The thug's eyes practically turn into dollar signs as he realizes he's caught a girl from a wealthy family. "Why don't I just take you with me instead?" he purrs, but his celebration is cut short when Yuechin intervenes with a cold, sharp enough. The thug just laughs in his face, mocking the white-haired figure and asking if he wants the girl or the ball more. Yuechin's expression turns murderous as the kidnapper cackles that both the girl and the treasure are equally valuable to him. "Let go of both of them," Yuechin demands, his voice dripping with an icy authority that should have been a warning sign. The thug is momentarily stunned by the audacity, but he quickly regains his smug attitude, deciding that Xian is far too valuable to let go. He leans in close to her, whispering that he can still trade her for a high price after he's done playing with her. Suddenly, the air in the alleyway shifts, and the thug feels a chill run down his spine as he senses a terrifying presence. Yuechin is no longer holding back, radiating a dark, suffocating aura that stains the very air. The red-haired girl watches in horror, whispering Xian's name as the situation spirals out of control. The thug panics, pressing the jagged blade deeper into Xian's skin and screaming for them to stay back. Yuechin's eyes have transformed into those of a predator, glowing with a feral golden light. "I told you don't come any closer," the thug shrieks, his voice cracking with pure terror. In his trembling hands, the blade slips, slicing into Xian's neck and drawing a line of crimson. Xian lets out a sharp scream of pain as the world seems to explode into motion. Seeing Xian's blood is the final straw for Yuechin, whose rage reaches a breaking point. As the red-haired girl screams for Xian, a thick supernatural mist begins to swallow the alleyway. From the shadows, a massive demonic beast emerges, hissing with a sound that promises nothing but death. The thug looks up, his face pale as he stammers, What are you?" while staring at the towering monster. Xian can only watch in a daze as the creature looms over her, its eyes burning with the same golden fire as Yuechin's. With a blur of black fur and claws, the beast lunges forward, shredding the thug in a display of primal violence. Xian is splattered with the aftermath, her eyes wide as she witnesses the sheer brutality of her savior. Blood paints the alley walls in a gruesome display, and the red-haired girl can only stand frozen as the beast finishes its work. The scene fades into a dark, distorted blur as the magic dissipates. Later, at the Liu guarding establishment, the master of the house returns, asking where his daughter is. Xian, now safely tucked away in her room, tries to hide her trauma, murmuring that she isn't feeling well and just wants to rest. Her father looks at her with a heavy gaze, sensing something is off but unable to put his finger on it. He mentions that there was a horrific homicide in town on his way back, telling her it's a good thing she stayed inside and didn't wander around today. Xian stays silent, the weight of the day's horrors pressing down on her as she lies in the dark. Meanwhile, back at the scene of the crime, a crowd has gathered to whisper about the body found in the alley. The local guards struggle to keep the curious onlookers away from the grisly sight. The thug's body is left in a state that barely looks human, a mess of torn clothes and deep gashes. One of the soldiers reports to his commander, noting that it looks like the man was mauled by some kind of wild animal. The commander narrows his eyes, staring at the carnage and repeating the word animals, with a look that suggests he knows there's something far more dangerous lurking in the city. Org page 0001. Our girl and her mysterious savior might look like a match made in heaven on paper, but the reality is way more complicated and a whole lot bloodier. Night falls over the city, but there's no rest for the local investigators. At the temporary coffin depository, the atmosphere is heavy with more than just the scent of incense. An old man reports that they've been receiving a flood of strange bodies lately, and the details are chilling. The investigator looks troubled as he examines the remains under the dim candlelight. "Not long ago, we got lots of bodies from the woods. They were all killed by very sharp weapons with clean cuts," the old man explains. The official wonders if they're dealing with a serial killing spree. "The cuts are too precise, too cruel to be random." He asks to see the bodies found in the woods, and as he looks them over, he realizes this isn't the work of a group. Only one person did this, including the one supposedly killed by an animal, he declares, his eyes narrowing in suspicion, as he stares at the neatly severed remains. Meanwhile, deep in the mountains, Yuechin is trying to wash away the literal and metaphorical blood under the moonlight. His red-haired companion isn't exactly giving him a peaceful spa day, though. "You should have known better that you're still not good with staying in human form," she scolds, worried they'll be forced to run again. It's a total bummer because they finally found a decent place to settle down. She's convinced our girl is absolutely terrified now that she's seen Yuechen's true nature. But Yuechen seems a million miles away, staring into the dark water. Are you even listening, Xian? She snaps, worried that our girl might spill their secrets to the world. Yuechen remains silent, his golden eyes reflecting a sadness he won't voice. Back at the estate, the night is quiet, but our girl is tossing and turning. She's trapped in a dream that feels all too real. She remembers the flash of steel and the spray of blood as her attackers were cut down. But then she remembers him, the ethereal, white-haired gentleman who stepped out of the shadows to save her. In her dream, she looks up at him with sparkling eyes, whispering, "Thank you for saving me, sir." He looks back, his face a mask of cold beauty. But the dream takes a sharp, terrifying turn as a monstrous white cat face with jagged teeth jumps out, screaming, "I'm a pussycat." Our girl bolts upright in bed, her heart hammering against her ribs. Her maid rushes into the room, looking concerned. "Did you have a nightmare, young miss?" she asks. Our girl can only manage a week, not exactly. But yes, as she tries to wipe the cold sweat from her forehead. The maid points out that she's been acting incredibly strange for 2 days now. Usually she's crying to go out, but lately she's just been a shut-in. "I haven't heard you talking about that gentleman again. What happened?" The maid prods. Our girl looks away, her expression crumbling. "I think he's just not into me. Besides, there's always that girl who is always beside him," she mumbles, feeling like a total third wheel. The maid reminds her how much she admired him for saving her life, but our girl just stares into space, her heart officially broken. The tense atmosphere between our leading ladies is enough to shatter glass. Xian has been cooped up inside for days, feeling like a prisoner in her own home. Her mind is racing as she wonders how her daughter is holding up under all this pressure. But it's the memories of that night that truly haunt her, specifically the image of a terrifying white beast. In her vision, she remembers a girl desperately calling out for Xian to stay calm as they faced the monster. The beast was a nightmare come to life, its fur matted with fresh blood as it growled with primal fury. Its orange eyes locked onto her with a predatory glint that promised nothing but death. "Grrrr," the creature snarled, the scent of copper filling the air. The red-haired woman standing beside the beast didn't offer any comfort, coldly telling our girl that she should leave immediately. Xian could only stare in shock, her heart hammering against her ribs as she realized she was out of her league. "Leave," the woman screamed, her voice echoing with a command that couldn't be ignored. Back in the present, Xian realizes that Xian might actually be that mysterious woman's name. She shivers, wondering if that woman is even human or some kind of monster in disguise. The brooding silence is broken when a servant announces that the commander has arrived. Our girl's father greets the high-ranking official, but the mood is far from friendly. The commander doesn't waste time on pleasantries, getting straight to the point about the recent thief attack. "Do you know the person who saved you?" he asks, his voice like a sharpened blade. He leans in, his intense gaze searching for any hint of a lie. Our girl's psyche finds herself blushing because, let's be real, the guy is incredibly handsome even if he is terrifying. But she keeps her cool, claiming she didn't even see the face of her savior. Her father quickly steps in to introduce her, hoping to deflect some of the heat. "Hello," she mutters nervously, trying not to let her voice tremble. The father demands to know what the official business is all about. The commander doesn't even look at him, keeping his focus entirely on Psyking. "Miss Psyking," he says, his tone dripping with suspicion. "You were there, weren't you?" he demands, cornering her with his words. He repeats the question, wanting to know exactly who stepped in to save her life. The father looks like he's about to have a heart attack from the stress. Psyking is sweating bullets, panicking as she wonders just how much this man already knows. The commander's eyes are cold and calculating, seeing right through her fragile facade. He presses harder, reminding her that she was kidnapped and someone had to have intervened. I don't know," she stammers, sticking to her story even as her pulse skyrockets. Suddenly, his eyes drop to her throat. "The cut on your neck, how did you get it?" he asks. "I accidentally cut myself," she lies, her hand instinctively reaching for the wound. He doesn't look convinced, mentioning a body that was found ripped apart by an animal just 2 days ago. Our girl feels like she's being hunted, realizing this guy is far more observant than she anticipated. Her father tries to shield her, insisting she hasn't left the house since the incident. "I did what had to be done, please don't overthink it," the father adds, trying to end the interrogation. Psyking doubles down, looking the commander in the eye and insisting she stayed home. "Are you sure?" he asks, one final test of her resolve. "Yes," she says, hoping her face doesn't betray the chaos inside. Finally, the commander decides to take his leave, much to everyone's relief. As they watch him walk away, the father and daughter look like they've just survived a war. "That was scary, I thought I'd say something wrong," Psyking admits, finally letting out a breath. Her father gives her a stern look, warning her that she only needs to be afraid if she was actually lying. She tries to play it off, calling the commander a promising and talented young man. Her father scoffs, pointing out that the guy is only 5 years older than her but already holds a position of immense power. Once they are outside the gates, the commander's aide asks if he's certain the Liu family is involved. "Yes," the commander replies without a shadow of a doubt. He tells his subordinate there's no rush to arrest her, as she will eventually lead them straight to the savior. When asked why he's so sure she's connected to the murders, he drops a bombshell, The bodies have her specific scent on them. The aide stares at him in dead silence, completely baffled. He can't help but think that the commander has the nose of a literal bloodhound. As night falls over the estate, the mystery only deepens. Alone in his quarters, the commander unrolls a scroll, revealing a portrait of a woman who looks exactly like our heroine, leaving us to wonder just how deep these family secrets go. The wind rustles through the bamboo as Yuechin stares longingly at the green jade ball in her hand. It's a quiet moment of reflection, but her mind is racing back to the chaos of a few days ago. She vividly remembers the terror in Xian's eyes when a thug held a knife to her throat. Our girl was terrified, offering the kidnapper anything he wanted just to get that jade ball back to its rightful owners. Back in the present, Yuechin is still lost in the memory until a loud voice shatters the silence. "This osmanthus cake is super delicious, Xian." Her red-haired companion cheers, stuffing her face. The sudden noise startles Yuechin so badly that her fox ears literally pop out of her head. "Don't just appear all of a sudden," Yuechin huffs, trying to regain her composure. But the companion isn't falling for the grumpy act. She knows Yuechin is spacing out and asks point-blank what's really on her mind. "Are you thinking about that girl?" she teases, giving Yuechin a knowing look. Yuechin doesn't even try to deny it. "Yes, I have been thinking about her," she admits with surprising honesty. She explains that the situation is complicated, especially since Xian was the one who recovered the jade ball for her. "But they really look like one another," Yuechin whispers, her gaze turning distant again. She confesses that she lost her cool the moment she saw Xian get hurt. Her companion just sighs, "You are doing it again." Deciding she's had enough of the melodrama for one day, the red-haired girl announces she's heading into town for more food. "I will try to control myself in the future," she promises. But before she leaves, she gives Yuechin some much-needed advice. "You should hide your ears first." As she walks away, she muses that the world is full of fun things, and that maybe these are just two people who happen to look alike. Still, she can't help but think Yuechin is a total idiot for not being able to forget someone even after 100 years. Meanwhile, our poor heroine Xian is having a total internal crisis. Her heart is pulled in two directions, one toward a promising, imposing man and the other toward a mysterious, elegant woman. "Why are these things happening to me?" she groans, looking like she hasn't slept in a week. Her loyal maid, Huan, notices the dark circles under her eyes and asks what happened. Xian considers telling her the whole crazy story but decides to play it cool. "I'm just a bit bored," she lies. Huan, being the absolute MVP of maids, decides it's time for a secret mission. She offers to cover for Xian so she can sneak out of the house for some fresh air. "Go out and ask around about the gentleman you like," she encourages with a wink. Xian is so relieved she practically tackles Huan in a massive hug. But once she's actually out in the bustling city, the boredom settles right back in. She touches her neck, the phantom sensation of the encounter still lingering. She finally admits the truth to herself, so monsters, they do exist. She flashes back to the moment a massive, terrifying black cat appeared out of nowhere to save her from her captor. But instead of being traumatized, our girl has a total main character moment. She decides that even if her savior is a monster, they could be the best of friends. "It's so cool to have a monster friend." She squeals internally, hiding her blushing face behind her fan while Yuechin's companion passes by in the background. Our girl is currently playing the role of a professional stalker, keeping a close eye on the fiery red-haired girl in the middle of the market. The girl, who we'll call Red Fox, is absolutely mesmerized by a simple bamboo dragonfly toy, cheering as it spins into the air. Xian watches from the shadows, her heart skipping a beat as she recognizes her. "It's her," she whispers, her mind racing with a million questions. "Wait, why am I being so excited?" she wonders, her face flushing a deep shade of pink. She tries to rationalize it, thinking that since Red Fox is a girl and her literal lifesaver, they probably aren't rivals for the Duke's affection anymore. Xian debates just walking up to her and asking to be taken to Yuechin, but she hesitates, paralyzed by her own indecision. Suddenly, the cute atmosphere evaporates as Red Fox's expression turns deadly serious. It turns out the toy she bought was a total scam and won't stay in the air, sending her into a literal blind rage. "You, it can't fly, how dare you lie to me?" she screams, grabbing the terrified vendor by the throat. Xian watches, sweating bullets as she realizes this girl is a total loose cannon. Red Fox doesn't just ask for a refund. She literally sets the toy on fire and tells the man to take back his useless trash. Seeing this display of temper, Xian decides that following her secretly is definitely the safer option. Red Fox heads out of the city and into a dense bamboo forest, whistling a happy tune while Xian trails behind. Our girl is doing her best to be stealthy, hiding behind large rocks while judging Red Fox's shopping habits. "She bought so many things. She's even more careless with money than I am," Xian muses, wondering if this girl comes from a wealthy family too. But our heroine's luck runs out when she accidentally steps on a dry leaf, letting out a loud, echoing crack. Red Fox's eyes instantly sharpen, her gaze darting toward the source of the noise. Xian freezes, certain she's been caught, but a lucky bamboo rat scurries across the path, providing the perfect cover. Thinking she's finally alone, Red Fox sighs with relief. "Right, there's no one here, I don't need to walk that slow," she says, as a massive surge of spiritual energy begins to swirl around her. Xian watches from the bushes, her eyes nearly popping out of her head in shock. In a flash of light and heat, Red Fox's true form begins to emerge. Fuzzy red ears sprout from her head and multiple massive, fluffy tails burst from her back. Nice, I feel so free, she cheers, stretching her kitsune tails with a wide grin. Without warning, she takes off at a speed that defies the laws of physics. Xian can barely process what she just saw, realizing she's going to have to run like her life depends on it just to keep up. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of the forest, a leaf falls gently into a still pond. The ripples spread across the surface, reflecting the calm but serious face of Yuetchen. She stands by the water, looking ethereal and hauntingly beautiful. Her own fox ears twitch as she focuses her internal power, the steam rising from her head as she forces her animalistic features to recede. I finally can control it now, she thinks, her orange eyes glowing with a quiet intensity. She reflects on her last encounter with Xian, worrying that if she had better control, our girl wouldn't have been so terrified of her. She decides that since Xian looked so upset, she should probably catch something delicious to bring back for Red Fox to help smooth things over. We pick up with our two leads looking like a total power couple on this cover page. Back in the bamboo forest, Liu Saiking freezes when she hears a suspicious noise coming from the shadows. The rustling gets louder and louder, until, surprise, a wild rabbit leaps out of the bushes. Our girl breathes a sigh of relief, realizing it's just a harmless bunny. But before the rabbit can even twitch its nose, a white blur streaks across the grass. With predatory grace, Xian pounces and snatches the poor creature right out of the air. She stands there holding her prize, looking at our girl with an unreadable expression. Her golden eyes are sharp and intense. That's when Liu Saiking notices something very fluffy and very not human, poking through that white hair the ears. Xian looks absolutely shook that she's been caught, and immediately tries to make a break for it. Wait, our girl screams, causing Xian to pause in her tracks. Xian turns back, her eyes narrowing as she asks, "You know my name?" Thinking fast, our girl realizes she hasn't even introduced herself yet, and tells the mysterious fox girl that her name is Liu Saiking. Xian is still on guard, demanding to know why she's lurking around in the woods. Our girl can't exactly admit she followed a bun head and got hopelessly lost, so she just hits her with a "oh, I just know." As they talk, the light catches a mark on Liu Saiking's neck, and Xian's gaze lingers there for a heavy moment. "Aren't you afraid of me?" Xian asks, her voice low. She admits she was being a bit rude, and explains that she actually came here to thank our girl for saving her earlier. Xian tries to dismiss her, telling her she can leave now, but Liu Saiking isn't about to let her new friend go that easily. She realizes she has to play dirty to stay close. "I'm hurt, I'm so hungry, I think I'm dying," she wails, putting on an Oscar-worthy performance of a damsel in distress. The guilt trip works like a charm because the next thing we know, Xian is actually carrying our girl on her back. Liu Saiking is blushing a literal storm, wondering why her heart is racing so fast even though she knows Xian is a woman. She's currently fighting the intrusive thought to reach out and touch those fluffy ears. "You'll need to leave right after you have your food," Xian says, keeping her eyes forward. Our girl watches her, thinking that even though this girl is wanted by the authorities, she doesn't seem like a bad person at all. She decides to give her a heads up, warning her that the town guards are hunting for a criminal, and it's better if she stays hidden in the forest. Xian finally reveals her full name, Xian-chan. Liu Saiking beams, telling her it's a beautiful name and promising to call her that from now on. But the peaceful moment is shattered when a red-haired fox girl bursts out of nowhere, looking like she's ready to commit a crime. "What's happening, Xian? No wonder I couldn't find you when I got home," she screams, her tails lashing in fury. She points a judgmental finger right at our girl, demanding to know why a human has been brought to their secret hideout. Xian calmly holds up the rabbit as if that explains everything. The red fox is distracted for exactly 1 second by the snack, before turning her rage back on Pieface. Liu Saiking tries to explain her twisted ankle story again, but the red fox looks like she's not buying a single word of it. "How dare you call her names? Who do you think you are?" she bellows, her aura turning dark. Our girl desperately promises she won't tell anyone about this place, but the red fox just scoffs. "Humans are sly, selfish, and cruel," she sneers. "Why do you think we can trust you?" Yuetchen and our girl find themselves caught in a destiny that seems to pull them closer than ever. But back in reality, the atmosphere is beyond awkward as Xian watches the two powerful beings trade looks. Yuetchen tries to talk some sense into her fiery companion, reminding her that you can't judge an entire race based on a few bad apples. The red-haired fox girl isn't buying it, screaming that humans are just killers who will bring a mob to their doorstep. Our girl can only watch in silence, realizing that for these ethereals, humans are basically the ultimate red flag. Miss Red Fox looks absolutely betrayed, huffing that Xian has totally changed because of this pie-face human. In a fit of pure petty rage, she throws a package of food at Yuetchen and tells them both to get lost. Our poor heroine is left sweating bullets, wondering if she just caused a massive domestic dispute. Miss Red Fox storms off, declaring she isn't talking to them anymore, while Yuetchen just stands there like a block of ice. Yuetchen stares off into the distance, looking as unbothered as ever. She tells Xian that she should probably leave after she finishes her meal, leaving our girl drowning in a sea of guilt. Maybe I can explain things to her, Xian suggests, her voice trembling. She wants to prove that humans and monsters don't have to be enemies. Yuechin asks if that's actually important, and our girl snaps back with a determined it is. Yuechin looks at her with those piercing eyes, seemingly unmoved by the emotional outburst. Suddenly, the fox girl pops her head back in, yelling, "Who wants to be friends with you?" She warns Xian not to get ahead of herself just because they saved her life once. Our girl doesn't back down, shouting that she truly appreciates everything Miss Red Fox did for her. The fox girl looks completely stunned by the gratitude, her brain seemingly short-circuiting. The sun shines over their quiet bamboo retreat, but the tension inside is still thick enough to cut with a sword. Yuechin remains a mystery, watching the chaos with a stoic expression. Miss Red Fox finally sits down to eat, though she looks like she's chewing on glass. Xian is still incredibly nervous, her face practically turning blue from the stress. "This is the worst cake I have ever swallowed," the fox girl grumbles, looking absolutely disgusted. Our girl, being the master of social survival, takes a bite and lies through her teeth, exclaiming that it's the most delicious thing she's ever eaten. Miss Red Fox scoffs, blaming the bad taste on the fact that humans made it. But then Yuechin chimes in, calmly stating that she thinks the cake is quite nice. Xian tries to keep the peace by turning down a second helping, which only makes things weirder. Our girl starts overthinking everything, wondering if the bunhead fox sees her as a romantic rival for Yuechin's attention. She decides that the fox girl must just be incredibly lonely and insecure, desperately needing someone to pay attention to her. Miss Red Fox catches her staring and demands to know what her problem is. "I understand how you feel," Xian says with a straight face. "I'll treat you as an important friend too." The fox girl is absolutely outraged, screaming that she's the one who bought the food in the first place. She looks like she's about to explode from the sheer audacity of our girl's kindness. Yuechin actually lets out a tiny, rare smile at the absurdity of it all. Xian beams, telling the fox that since she took the food, they are officially besties now. The fox girl can only blink in confusion, her anger being defeated by Xian's pure, annoying optimism. Our girl immediately starts peppering her with questions about her four tails and how hard she must have worked to transform. "You're so annoying, why can't you stop talking?" The fox finally screams, reverting back to her animal form in a puff of rage. But our girl doesn't care, complimenting their house and promising to bring fruit on her next visit, while Yuechin tells her they don't need her to kiss their asses. Our girl is feeling on cloud 9 after her meeting with Yuechin. She reflects on how they've finally started to become more familiar with one another, though she might have overindulged on the osmanthus cake earlier. Even so, her stomach is still growling. "I should have some food before I go home," she muses, eyeing a nearby restaurant. But as she's lost in thought, a young boy suddenly slams right into her. I'm sorry," the kid cries out before darting away, leaving a confused Xian behind. Ignoring the weird encounter, she heads inside and orders a mouth-watering spread of dim sum. She's absolutely loving the meal and even decides to get some takeout for Huan, asking the waitress for the bill. The waitress politely informs her the total is 28. Xian reaches for her funds, but her expression suddenly shifts to pure horror. It clicks that little brat from earlier didn't just bump into her, he robbed her blind. Desperate, she tries to pull rank. "Do you know who I am, ma'am?" she asks, hoping her status as the young miss of the Liu guarding establishment will buy her some time. But the waitress goes from 0 to 100 real quick, her face twisting into a terrifying mask of greed. "A small restaurant like us is just trying to survive," she screeches, refusing to give a discount and threatening to send her staff to Xian's house to collect the debt while she waits as a hostage. Xian tries to explain she was robbed right outside, but the woman isn't buying the stolen purse excuse for a second. Our girl is officially panicking because if her father finds out she ran away again, he is going to absolutely end her. Just when things look their bleakest, a strong hand extends a familiar red pouch. "Is this yours?" a calm voice asks. Xian is flooded with relief, but her heart skips a beat when she sees who saved her. It's a high-ranking officer who immediately puts the waitress in her place, telling her she needs to be more aware of the thieves operating in front of her shop. "Commander, I'm sorry about that." The staff stammers, leaving Xian reeling as she realizes just how powerful this man actually is. They end up back at a table together, sipping tea in a silence that is beyond awkward. Xian is internally screaming, wondering why a man of his stature is sitting with her and how she didn't recognize him immediately. They share a tense moment over their teacups, until she finally manages to break the ice. "Oh, thank you for getting my purse back," she laughs nervously. The commander doesn't let her off easy, asking how a young miss could wander around without a servant, especially since a homicide just occurred nearby. He looks her dead in the eye and asks, "Won't Mr. Liu be worried about you?" Realizing she's in over her head, Xian tries to make a quick exit, but the commander insists on walking her home. As they walk through the city, the local women can't help but swoon over how handsome he is. It turns out he's a local hero, with citizens stopping him to thank him for everything from banishing criminals to finding lost dogs, and even arresting an underwear thief. Xian watches him, thinking he must be truly venerable to earn such respect, but then a dangerous thought crosses her mind. Maybe he has feelings for me. She immediately scolds herself for being so delusional. But then the commander's gaze sharpens, Did you go to any place that has bamboo? He asks. Xian freezes as he explains he can smell fresh bamboo clinging to her robes. She tries to play it cool, stuttering that she was just there for a solo walk because the air is nice. He raises an eyebrow, asking why she wouldn't invite a friend to such a lovely spot. Since I don't have many friends, I went there alone, she admits with a sheepish smile. The commander's expression turns grim as he looks away. Really? It's a shame, he says before dropping a bombshell that chills her to the bone. It's such a shame that the bamboo forest is going to be burnt down. The mood shifts instantly as our girl psyching realizes something terrifying. The bamboo forest is about to be burned to the ground. Burn down the bamboo forest? She asks, her heart dropping into her stomach. The commander nonchalantly explains that the government wants to wipe out the locusts, but Psyking isn't buying that excuse for a second. She knows burning the whole forest is a massive waste and suspects something far more sinister is at play. She specifically asks if it's the forest near the south gate, her eyes searching for any sign of a joke on the commander's stoic face. He gives her a cold, side-eyed look that confirms her worst fears. We are going to do it tonight, he states, and our heroine is officially in a state of pure shock. Panic immediately sets in because if that forest goes up in flames, she has no idea what will happen to the mysterious Xian-chan. She tries to play it cool as they reach the Liu guarding establishment, but the commander is already making his exit, refusing her gifts. Wait a second, commander, she calls out, stopping him just as he's about to leave. She nervously asks for the exact timing of the fire, making up a frantic lie about needing to close her windows to avoid the smell of ash. The commander's expression remains unreadable as he stares back at her. He finally tells her it will be around 7 to 9 p.m. before giving a short, "You are welcome," and heading out. As the door shuts behind him, our girl goes into full-blown crisis mode. Her maid, Hyun, is waiting for her inside, surprised to see her back so early. But Psyking doesn't have time for small talk. She lunges forward, screaming that she needs Hyun's help right now. When she explains she wants to sneak out after curfew, Hyun thinks she's lost her mind and warns her about the soldiers. If I don't go out tonight, someone might die. Psyking cries, offering up her favorite dim sum as a bribe to save her friend. Meanwhile, deep within the shadows of the forest, a mysterious fan spins through the air. A red-haired girl catches it, looking bored as she lounges about and wonders why someone would give such a cheap fan as a gift. She keeps pestering her companion, asking how a rich girl could be so stingy. Across from her, the powerful white-haired figure Xian-chan is busy writing and ignoring the girl's complaints. So you're just going to let her become our friend and get in our life? The redhead demands, clearly annoyed. Xian-chan claims it makes no difference to her, but her companion can tell she's actually looking quite happy about the new connection. Back at the Liu estate, dinner is a tense affair as Psyking abruptly puts down her chopsticks. Her father, the boss of the guarding establishment, notes that she barely touched her food. She laughs it off with a fake smile, claiming she's just trying to lose some weight. When he asks where she's going, she insists she's just heading to her room to relax. She even tries to sound like a model student, claiming she's going to practice calligraphy and painting. Her father gives her a piercing, serious look, reminding her that she's his only daughter and he's clearly worried. Psyking promises she's been behaving well, but the weight of her secret plan is heavy as she retreats. The men at the table discuss the stranger who saved her life, noting that it was a very close call. But the boss isn't in the mood for gossip and orders the servants to leave them alone immediately. As the maid shuts the sliding doors, the room fills with an ominous silence. Once they are in private, the boss's expression turns deadly serious as he warns his men not to tell anyone about what happened that day. He knows that if the truth gets out, they are all going to be dragged into a conflict they might not survive. While the city sleeps, shadows are moving in the dark corners of a local tavern. Two men are whispering about a mysterious shipment that was recently sent off to Pai State. The rice shop owner claims he was hired by a man who uses such a perfect disguise that no one can tell who he actually is. I asked around and people are terrified of him, one of them whispers, his face pale with worry. His companion asks if they should report this to the authorities, but the leader immediately shuts him down. He warns that they were hired for a reason and need to lay low or they'll be the ones in trouble. Make sure no one says a word about what happened that day, he demands, gripping his cup. High above them, a figure is creeping across the rooftops. A foot slips quietly against the tiles as they navigate the steep slopes. It's our girl, and she's trying to make a clean getaway into the night. Down in the courtyard, her loyal maid, Hyun, is waiting anxiously. Are you all right, young miss? She calls out in a hushed tone. Our girl tells her to handle things at the house while she's gone, promising to be back as soon as possible. As she heads toward the edge of the estate, the night sounds start to get to her. A cat's meow and the distant bark of a dog have her jumping out of her skin. She looks back at the dark silhouette of the buildings, feeling like eyes are watching her from every window. She tries to steady her breathing, but she's clearly terrified. It's so dark, I should walk faster, she thinks, glancing up at the cold glow of the full moon. Entering the bamboo forest only makes things worse. Every owl hoot sounds like a threat, and she starts to wonder if she's been lured into a trap. Suddenly, a loud rustle in the bushes sends her into a full-blown panic. She trips over a root and goes flying. That hurts, she groans, face planting into the grass as the forest looms over her. Meanwhile, inside a nearby manor, Xian is trying to liven things up with a ghost story. And then you can hear that dead woman saying over and over every night. She begins dramatically. She even puts on a full performance, clutching her throat and screaming, "Where's my head?" But Yuechin just stares at her with a completely blank expression. That's it? He asks, totally unimpressed. Xian is absolutely fuming that her acting didn't get a rise out of him. He tells her that if she's done being dramatic, she should just light the lamps. But suddenly, Yuechen's red eyes sharpen as he hears a rhythmic tapping. Someone is here, he says, his voice dropping an octave. Xian is still complaining that he has no taste for the macabre. Bang, the door is thrown open and our girl collapses into the room, looking like she crawled through a hedge backward. Xian is startled, her eyes bugging out at the sudden intruder. You freak me out, why is this pie face here at night? She shrieks. She immediately tries to kick our girl out, but our heroine isn't budging. This forest is going to be burnt down tonight, she screams, her voice cracking with desperation. The news catches Xian completely off guard. Our girl begs them to leave before the others arrive, warning that they'll be caught in the fire or captured. Yuechen looks her over and asks if she met anyone on the way here. She insists she was alone, but she's shaking too hard to be convincing. Yuechen tells her to wait. He asks one more time if she's sure she wasn't followed. Xian's expression turns deadly as she places a hand on our girl's shoulder. Someone has been following you all the way here, she says, looking toward the open door where a mysterious figure is waiting in the shadows. The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife as Yuechen and Xian find their quiet evening shattered. Our red-haired firebrand Yuechen isn't about to play nice, screaming, "Who are you?" and demanding to know why a commander is suddenly crashing their private space. She even has the audacity to call him pie face, while our poor heroine Xian is sweating bullets, wondering if this man actually followed her all the way here. Xian's heart sinks as she realizes the truth. He lied to her from the very start just to get what he wanted. The commander, Landa, doesn't waste time on pleasantries, telling Xian to stay back while he sets his sights on the white-haired figure. He draws his blade in a blur of steel, but Yuechen isn't some helpless maiden. She meets his aggression with a cold, piercing gaze. With a sudden swish, the commander is sent reeling back, much to the absolute shock of Xian and the others watching the power struggle unfold. Landa manages to find his footing, but he looks significantly less confident than he did a moment ago. Yuechen stares him down, her voice dripping with ice as she demands, "Who are you?" He formally introduces himself as Commander-in-Chief Landa. He isn't here to negotiate or share tea. He looks her dead in the eye and declares, "I'm here to take you back." Yuechen loses it, screaming about how dare he break into someone else's home. But Landa turns his judgmental gaze toward Xian, telling our girl that she's committed a crime by not telling the truth. He claims he's just doing his duty to protect the public from a monster like Yuechen. Xian is left reeling, looking between the two and asking, who is he? She's spiraling now, realizing this kid might have used her as a literal bloodhound to track down his target. Since nobody is offering a confession, Landa decided that silence is basically an invitation to get violent. He gives Yuechen a choice: walk out with him peacefully or get tied up like a common criminal, but our girl demands proof of his accusations. Landa admits he's just following clues, which prompts a tiny fox spirit to start yapping in total indignation. Yuechen doesn't even bother denying her past actions, simply stating that those people deserve it. Xian looks like her entire world is crumbling, unable to process the darkness hiding behind Yuechen's eyes. Landa tries to play the reasonable hero, admitting that he won't say all monsters are bad. But something like you, he growls, has to be killed. Yuechen's expression goes completely blank, her golden eyes glowing with a dangerous light as she prepares for the worst. Landa lunges with a lethal strike, forcing Yuechen to grab Xian and leap into the air just as the floorboards are shredded. Our red-haired friend is left cowering on the ground, clutching her head as the battle turns the room into a literal blender. Landa charges again, his sword glowing with a terrifying, ethereal blue light. With a deafening bam, the entire building is nearly leveled as a massive wave of energy slices through the walls and into the night sky. Picking up right in the heat of the moment, Xian opens her eyes to a literal nightmare. Our girl barely has time to breathe before the white-haired figure, Yuechen, pulls her back as a glowing blade hums through the air. This absolute menace of a commander is standing his ground, looking ready to end everyone's subscription to life. Our poor heroine can barely process the carnage unfolding around her. He is really going to kill them, she realizes, her heart doing Olympic gymnastics in her chest. But wait, the homeowner is not happy about this uninvited renovation. The red-haired girl screams, "You bastard." She's absolutely livid that her house is being turned into toothpicks for no reason. "I'm going to teach you some lessons," she yells, unleashing a literal firestorm from her fingertips. The flames roar with a massive boom, but the commander doesn't even blink as he prepares to slice through the heat. He moves like a blur, cutting through the magic with cold, terrifying precision. The air is thick with sparks and pure aggression as the two clash. Honestly, the man is a beast, but he's definitely the villain of the week in our girl's book. Suddenly, Yuechen steps up, his eyes glowing with a dangerous, predatory light. He weaves his power through the chaos, his movements creating a deadly swish that cuts through the commander's momentum. Debris is flying everywhere as the wind from their spirit power picks up. Xian is curled into a ball on the floor, crying, "It's so scary, am I going to die here?" The red-haired girl is still worried about the smoke, coughing as she realizes they're all about to be smoked like brisket. She looks at our girl and screams, "Why are you still here? Get out." Yuechin isn't playing around anymore, his fingers dancing as he weaves a shimmering trap. In an instant, he has the commander wrapped up in glowing strings like a holiday ham. Xian is baffled how they're even standing uninjured in this inferno. The commander is struggling against his bonds, hissing, "Are you threatening me?" He tries to flex his way out, shouting, "You can't stop me with this kind of trick." He grips his sword, his aura exploding into a terrifying blue light that shakes the very foundation of the building. The man is literally powering up to nuke the place just to prove a point. The force is too much for the structural integrity of the room, and the ceiling starts to give way. A massive pillar begins to creak and snap, and it's not looking good for anyone standing below. Xian looks up, sees her life flash before her eyes, and screams, "I'm sorry, Daddy," as the world comes crashing down with a final, violent smash. The battle between Yuechin and the commander reaches a fever pitch as their blades clash with bone-shaking force. Our poor heroine Xian can only huddle on the ground and cover her ears as the world literally falls apart around her. These two aren't pulling any punches, their eyes locked in a deadly game of chicken. Debris rains down like confetti from a nightmare as the structural integrity of the room finally gives up the ghost. Finally, the dust settles, leaving the commander standing tall while Xian trembles in the middle of the wreckage. She breathes a sigh of relief, thinking, "I'm saved." But the commander isn't exactly playing the hero role here. He glares at the white-haired Yuechin and scoffs, "A monster like you would save anyone." Yuechin just stares back with that icy, "I don't get paid enough for this" expression. Xian looks between the two of them, sweating bullets. Talk about a mood killer, the atmosphere is so thick you could cut it with a spirit sword. Even Bunhead is confused, wondering what's up with this awkward silence. As wood chips continue to fall from the ceiling, Yuechin finally breaks the tension with the most villainous line ever, "I just don't want to break my belongings." Wow, thanks for the concern, girl. Xian is absolutely floored, thinking, so she wasn't going to save me? That actually hurts. But wait, the commander's eyes widen as he spots a mysterious green jade ball in Yuechin's hand. He lunges forward and grabs her wrist. "The jade ball, where did you get that?" he demands, sounding like a man who just saw a ghost. Xian watches the drama unfold, totally lost as to why a piece of jewelry is causing a heart attack. Yuechin remains as silent as a grave. "Answer me," the commander roars. Suddenly, energy flares up where he's holding her, and things are getting spicy. Bunhead isn't having it, screaming for him to take his hands off her friend. The commander's hand starts to smoke as Yuechin's power pushes back with intense heat. Xian quickly plucks up the courage and steps in, crying, "Please, stop fighting." She tries to explain that they were only trying to save her, and that surely a great commander would understand. She practically begs him, "I really hope you can reconsider the whole situation. Please don't arrest them." Bunhead, meanwhile, is still ready to throw hands, shouting that they'll fight him anytime. The commander looks at the two girls. Then with a sharp clack, he finally sheathes his sword. He turns to Xian and says, "It's really late, Miss Liu, I'll take you home." Xian isn't falling for his gentleman act, shrinking back behind Yuechin's white robes for protection. The commander gives one last lingering, suspicious look before walking out through the literal hole he made in the walls. Bunhead screams after him to pay for the damage, but he just coldly replies that she can just manifest another illusion to fix it. Bunhead is stunned. Wait, the whole house was an illusion this whole time? As he disappears into the night, Bunhead realizes he's no ordinary soldier, he's an ethereal. It seems Xian and Yuechin have stumbled into something way bigger than a simple arrest. Our story continues with a visual of our leading ladies looking like a total powerhouse duo. Back in the thick of the drama, the atmosphere is heavy as Miss Red Fox drops a bombshell, asking if the commander is actually an ethereal. She claims she didn't notice it before because she was seeing red, but now his scent is giving him away. Apparently, humans have a very specific lack of ethereal musk, and since our girl Xian is just a regular mortal, she's completely nose-blind to the supernatural pheromones flying around. Xian's soul practically leaves her body as she realizes the terrifying truth. The commander is a literal monster. She takes a massive, shaky breath, thinking to herself, "Wait, so there were 3 ethereals throwing hands right in front of me and I didn't get turned into a pancake? I should go buy a lottery ticket." Meanwhile, Yuechin remains her usual cool, mysterious self, admitting she isn't exactly a bloodhound when it comes to tracking her own kind. But the peace doesn't last long because Red Fox is a total green-eyed monster. She notices Yuechin and Xian standing a little too close for comfort and loses her mind. "Why do you have so many questions? And why are you acting so cozy with her?" she screams, her face contorting in peak jealousy. She immediately rushes to Yuechin's side, grabbing her hands and fussing over her like a worried stage mom, asking if that jerk did any permanent damage. Xian can only watch from the sidelines, sweating bullets as she realizes just how possessive this fox really is. Red Fox then turns her fury on our poor heroine, barking at her to leave since the sun is down. Yuechin doesn't make it any better, coldly telling Xian to just see herself out. "Tisk, so rude," Xian mutters, feeling totally rejected as she's shoved out into the dark. The problem? Our girl is absolutely terrified of the dark and can't see a single thing in the shadows. She has to swallow her pride and pop her head back in with the cutest Puss in Boots eyes, begging someone to kindly walk her to the exit. The 2 ethereals give her the ultimate "Are you serious?" look, but eventually Red Fox agrees to do the honors. As they walk through the bamboo forest, Xian tries to play nice, thinking maybe Red Fox is finally trying to be friends. Don't get it twisted, Red Fox snaps, bearing a fang. I'm only here because I don't want Yuechin doing it. Talk about a legendary level of gatekeeping. She continues to roast Xian, calling her a baby for being afraid of the dark and accusing her of making up excuses just to get closer to her precious Xian-chan. Xian realizes there's no winning with this girl. She's the definition of a tsundere who only has eyes for one person. When Xian asks how long they've known each other, Red Fox reveals they've been together since before Xian's ancestors were even a thought. You should call me big sister, she demands. But Xian isn't having it, joking that maybe great-grandnanny is more appropriate. Curious about their bond, Xian asks how they even became friends in the first place. Red Fox's expression softens for a split second as she reveals a life-changing secret. Yuechin saved her life. Xian gushes about how Yuechin is actually a sweetheart deep down, but Red Fox immediately gets competitive, shouting that she was saved first. However, the mood shifts to ice when Xian asks about Red Fox's family. Gone is the only answer she gets. Realizing she stepped on a major trauma trigger, Xian tries to apologize, but Red Fox's walls go right back up. She points toward the bridge, telling Xian to get lost because she doesn't like her kind. As Xian crosses the bridge, she offers one last thank you, but Red Fox just responds with a bitter tusk. Our girl watches her walk back into the shadows, sensing a deep-rooted anger she can't quite understand. Left alone in the bamboo, Red Fox's eyes narrow as she spots a hidden hunter's trap in the brush. Those hunters again, she whispers, her mind spiraling into a dark, bloody memory. We're suddenly plunged into a horrific flashback of fire and betrayal. She remembers the truth about humanity. They are selfish, greedy, and hypocritical creatures. She sees images of innocent animals being slaughtered for sport and plunderers setting the world ablaze. The memories of being trapped in a net, watching her kind get murdered for profit, flood back with terrifying intensity. As the scene ends on a haunting close-up of her eye, we see the reflection of the humans who ruined her life. They took everything I had, she growls, reminding us that behind that tsundere attitude is a heart fueled by pure, unadulterated vengeance, Org page 0017. Before we see Xian and Yuechin standing together as allies, we have to go back to the moment that changed everything. The horror begins in a dark, cramped cage where a family of foxes is being terrorized by heartless hunters. Kids run, the parents scream as the enclosure is breached. Our girl and her siblings scramble for their lives, their little hearts hammering against their ribs. They sprint through the shadows, desperate to find an exit. But the hunters are faster. One of the men sneers, "Are you trying to run away?" as he brutally slams a staff down on the fleeing cubs. Our girl watches in absolute agony as her mother is pinned down by a net. "Go," her mother cries, biting the ropes to give her daughter a single second of hope. The lead hunter grabs a sibling by the tail, laughing that they are the last hope for the family's lineage. Driven by pure instinct and a surge of hidden power, our girl releases a blast of fox demon energy. "Is that a fox demon?" the men shout, realizing they can make a fortune off her skin. She doesn't look back, her eyes streaming with tears as she wonders why this is happening. Every scream from her family echoes in her ears, fueling her desperate flight through the woods. She remembers her father's warnings about the cunning humans and how he sacrificed his chance at godhood to save her mother. He told her to stay away from humans as far as she could, but fate is a cruel mistress. Suddenly, a metallic clack rings out. Pain sears through her leg as a heavy iron trap snaps shut. She rolls on the ground, howling in agony, her freedom cut short just when she needed it most. "I need to go back. I have to save them," she whimpers, clawing at the cold metal with her bare paws. She knows that if she doesn't get free, her whole family will be slaughtered. As she lies there, broken and bleeding, a pair of glowing eyes watches from the ridge. A black cat steps forward, followed by a majestic white feline with eyes like burning embers. In a swirl of spiritual mist, the white cat transforms, revealing the stunning white-haired figure Yuechin. She looks down at the shivering fox with a gaze that is both cold and strangely pitying. "That must be hurt, let me help you," Yuechin whispers. With a simple gesture, the heavy trap is forced open. "You are good to go, Foxy," she says, granting our girl a second chance at life, but the trauma is too deep. Instead of running to safety, our girl turns right back toward the hunter's camp. "Hold on, I'm coming for you," she cries out in her heart, sprinting back toward the nightmare. She bursts through the doors, calling for her mom and dad. But she's met with a sight that would shatter anyone's soul. The hunters are standing over the bloodied, empty pelts of her family. "Aya, isn't this the little one who just escaped?" One hunter laughs, holding a knife. He mocks her, saying she's just in time to offer up her own leather and join her family. "Don't worry, it'll be painful since we peel you alive," he sneers. At that moment, something inside our girl snaps. The grief turns into a white-hot demonic rage that summons the very heavens. Lightning rumbles and strikes the building as she screams, "I don't give a damn about becoming a god." She blames herself for everything, her voice cracking as she vows to kill every single human in the room. Just as she's about to lose herself to the darkness forever, she appears again. Amidst the flames and the blood, the white-haired figure steps into the center of the carnage. Yuechin reaches out a hand, her expression softening. "Come here, Foxy," she calls out gently. "It's all right, it's over, it's not your fault." It was Yuechin who pulled our girl back from the edge of becoming a monster. To the fox, she wasn't just a savior. She was the silver lining in a world of absolute darkness. From that moment on, Yuechin became the only precious thing left in her world. Even though Yuechin can't remember her anymore, We start off with a glimpse of our stunning duo, Xian and the mysterious white-haired Yuechin, looking like the ultimate power couple. Back at the family estate, the atmosphere is a bit more educational. Xian is currently getting a crash course on feline behavior from her maid, who asks what the typical traits of a cat are. Cats are the epitome of cleanliness and they tend to scratch humans, the maid explains, while our girl diligently takes notes on how to handle her own stray. When the maid starts rambling about how valuable fox fur is to businessmen, Xian decides that's a part of the lesson she can definitely skip. In reality, her mind is spinning with thoughts of the ethereal commander, wondering if he's actually a good guy or a total villain. I wish I could know what he really is so things could be easier, she muses, tapping her chin with her brush. When the maid gets suspicious of her sudden interest, Xian just plays it off, claiming she just wants to know about all kinds of animals. Little does the maid know, Xian is busy imagining the formidable Yuechin as a giant, fluffy white cat going meow. Our girl is practically drooling at the thought, thinking, I want to see Xian-chan act like that badly. The maid, blissfully unaware of the thirsty fantasies happening right in front of her, wonders where on earth they'd even find a super big white cat. Xian snaps back to reality, remembering how lucky she was that no one caught her sneaking back into the house after last night's brawl. She decides that if she's going to be a proper representative for humanity, she needs to take the initiative. I will be the first woman in history to tame ethereals, I'm so great. She brags to herself with a massive ego boost. But her self-congratulation is cut short when the maid mentions that the boss wants some special tea brought out. Xian's heart nearly stops when she hears the news. The commander is actually here in the house. She sneaks toward the reception room and finds the commander sitting calmly with her father. She peeks through the door, wondering how he can act like nothing happened after that fierce fight, but then she hears him claim that the murderer was just a wild boar. The commander doubles down on the lie, suggesting it might have been a mutant boar, which leaves Xian absolutely fuming in the shadows. Xian-chan is a big white cat, how could he compare her with a boar? She rages, offended on behalf of her fluffy ethereal. The conversation between the men turns serious as they discuss the strange dead bodies the coroner has been finding lately. The commander promises to look into it, telling the father to rest assured. The father is grateful for the protection, but then the commander shifts the topic to something a bit more personal. He suggests that it would be better for Xian to stay home, since she has much more curiosity than others. To emphasize his point, he shoots a terrifyingly sharp glance directly at the door where she's hiding. Our girl is officially busted. Geez, how did he know that I'm here? Do I have a strong smell? She wonders, sweating bullets as her cover is blown. Her father is mortified, scolding her for hiding and demanding she come out and greet their guest properly. Xian forces a giant, awkward smile, relieved that the commander didn't actually snitch on her sneaking out. The commander remains incredibly polite, telling her he's actually younger than her and she shouldn't be so formal. Xian's internal monologue is a scream of pure disbelief. You're an ethereal, I bet you've lived for thousands of years. Her father isn't done with the lecture, though, ordering her to stay inside because of all the strange things happening lately. He stands up and starts shouting, revealing that he knew she sneaked out on the day of the boar case all along. But just as he's about to blow a fuse, he softens, admitting he just doesn't want to see her get hurt. Before the family drama can escalate, the commander interrupts, asking if he can speak with Miss Liu privately. Her father, clearly misunderstanding the vibe, gives an enthusiastic thumbs up. Yes, please take care of my daughter, he says, while our poor heroine looks like her soul is leaving her body. Our girl Xian is currently stuck in the most awkward tea date in history. Her father clearly didn't get the memo that she's terrified, because he leaves her completely alone with the commander. How can daddy leave the two of us here? She cries internally, sweating bullets while the man across from her just sips his tea. She knows he's an ethereal working with the authorities, and she's convinced he's only after one thing. Our heroine is basically having a mental breakdown, wondering if he's discovered her secret and is about to finish her off right then and there. The commander finally breaks the silence and Xian nearly jumps out of her skin. He asks if those two monsters, meaning Yuechin and her crew, gave her a hard time after he left. Xian puts on her best I'm totally fine face, insisting they were actually sweet and took her home safely. The commander looks like he doesn't believe a word of it, shocked that those killing machines would ever be helpful. He leans in close, demanding to know if she's ever wondered why Yuechin keeps saving her without asking for anything in return. Xian can only look away, nervously suggesting that maybe it's just fate. Out of nowhere, the commander declares that he'll be the one to protect her from now on. Xian's brain completely short-circuits, her eyes going wide as she tries to process the sudden hero act. He tells her it's best if she just listens to her father and stays home to stay out of trouble. With a curt goodbye, he stands up and leaves her reeling. Her dad walks back in a second later, surprised the date was over so fast. Xian quickly makes her escape, wondering if he was actually talking about Yuechin. When her dad asks what they chatted about, she plays it down, saying he just offered protection and then dipped. While her dad gets suspicious, our girl is busy wondering if ethereals just find her irresistible. But the mood shifts when her dad mentions a secret mission. Before she can get details, he drops the hammer. She's starting combat training tomorrow because he's tired of her being defenseless. Meanwhile, the commander is strutting through the streets, ignored by the fangirls swooning over how cool he is. He's still obsessing over Yuechen's claim that she only saved Xian because she didn't want to break her belongings. He realizes that guessing is useless and decides to hunt down the truth himself. Somewhere else, a hammer is clacking away at some bamboo. It turns out the red-haired girl is busy playing carpenter, absolutely fuming about the coal head ruining her house. She rants about how an ethereal like him managed to get a job with the authorities. Yuechen is helping out, but she's lost in thought, remembering the commander's intense questioning about her jade ball. The redhead calls out to her, telling her to bring the materials up to the roof. She asks if Yuechen has ever met that guy before, but our mysterious white-haired beauty just says she doesn't remember. With the repairs finally finished, it's time for a little magical flair. The red-haired girl strikes a pose, channeling her energy. In a burst of pink light, the entire building is restored and literally sparkling. She's feeling herself, but the mood is instantly ruined when the commander shows up again. He insists he's there in peace, but he's not leaving until he gets answers about that jade ball. The tension is rising between our girl and this mysterious white-haired beauty as they stand in the quiet bamboo forest. I wonder if we are talking about the same thing? The investigator asks, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. Our white-haired boy is just as curious, noticing that the man seems to recognize the jade ball he's carrying. It belongs to the royal family, the investigator states firmly, his voice dropping an octave. As our ethereal friend recalls her scent, he whispers her name, Princess Yuechen. Xian is absolutely floored, her eyes wide as she gasps, "You know her." The investigator explains that any ethereal would know a noble who treated them with such kindness, but unfortunately, she disappeared in a horrific tragedy. The authorities sent countless guards to find her, but they came up empty-handed, not even her clothes remained. Dark rumors began to spread that she was ruthlessly killed by monsters. The investigator's gaze turns icy as he looks at the jade ball again. He admits that if our boy hadn't risked everything to save Psyking the night before, he'd suspect him of being the one who murdered the princess. "Who are you? Do you know anything about what happened?" he demands, his patience wearing thin. "Also, why do you have her jade ball?" Finally, our boy drops the ultimate bombshell. "She was the most important person to me. I was her cat." The investigator's eyes snap open as he recalls the legend of the princess owning a 9 lives ethereal cat. He believes there's a massive conspiracy and a monster behind the tragedy, and he begs our boy to tell him everything. He reveals the grim reality. Many 9 lives cats were slaughtered during that time, their precious needins stolen for internal alchemy. Xian looks on in shock as our boy struggles with his fractured mind. He confesses that he can't remember much because he gave his very life force, his needin, to the princess. "If I didn't do that, she would have died in front of me," he says, the pain of the sacrifice still haunting him. He can only recall her crying face before he passed out, and he hasn't seen a trace of her since he woke up. The investigator explains that giving up a needin is exactly why his memories are gone. He presses for any detail, the location, the monsters, or anyone who was lurking in the shadows. As they stand in the misty grove, a jagged memory finally pierces through. He remembers a stormy night, fleeing through the woods on horseback while holding the princess close. She was desperate and sobbing, screaming for him to leave and go where humans could never find him again. But the shadows were already closing in, threatening to kill his owner if he didn't hand over his life force. The truth behind Yuechen's past is even darker than we imagined. In a chilling flashback, we see the moment a shadow loomed over a helpless white cat, its eyes filled with tears as blood splattered across the rain-soaked ground. Yuechen looks away, his voice heavy as he admits that's the extent of his fractured memories. Our mysterious visitor isn't satisfied, pointing out the glaring hole in the story. The princess still disappeared even after Yuechen gave her his needin. Normally, a 9 lives cat would either die or revert to a simple animal after losing their core. Our girl Xian narrows her eyes, demanding to know how he managed to survive and keep his human form through such a tragedy. Yuechen glances at her, revealing that if it wasn't for the red fox, meaning our very own Xian, he would have shared the same fate as the others. Xian is immediately flustered, but the mood is ruined when the stranger calls her Miss Bonbon Head, prompting her to scream, "Who are you calling Bonbon Head, you coal head?" Ignoring the bickering, the stranger notes that Xian must be a high-level ethereal to have pulled off such a feat. Xian turns back to Yuechen, her heart aching as she asks why on earth he would sacrifice his very essence for that woman. "Because I want to. Do you have a problem with that?" He snaps back before turning the interrogation on the visitor. The visitor begins to weave a grim tale of a massacre from hundreds of years ago when cat toners were murdered in cold blood. Humans began to hunt cats without reason, fueled by a horrific rumor. Word had spread that a 9 lives cat's needin could literally bring the dead back to life, leading nobles to hire assassins to harvest them. The slaughter was so absolute that every cat in town was wiped out, and the royal family quickly executed a scapegoat to bury the tragedy. Yuechen realizes this conspiracy goes much deeper than a simple missing princess. Even though she's been gone for over a century, the dark rumors about the Needin's power are still circulating today. People are still searching for that forbidden power, and Yuechen grips his charm, his face hardening. He realizes that if his fears are correct, then Miss Psyking, the girl who looks exactly like the lost princess, is in grave danger. "That pie face, what does this have to do with her?" Xian asks, still annoyed. But the stranger explains that because Psyking and the princess are doppelgangers, Everyone assumes she's the one hiding the Needin. Xian realizes with a start that our poor heroine, Miss Liu, is now the primary target for these ruthless hunters. Yuechen asks if the visitor is suggesting these people are already closing in on her. The stranger confirms it, suggesting they use the situation to their advantage to draw the villains out. He reaches out a hand, asking for their help to finally solve the mystery and recover Yuechen's lost memories. Xian is absolutely livid, shouting, "You were trying to kill us last night, why would we believe you?" The guy dismisses it as a misunderstanding, but when Yuechen asks why he's so invested in this case, his expression softens. "I'm doing this for someone I cherish," he says, his eyes filled with a rare, quiet determination. Despite everything we've seen our girl go through, it looks like she's finally taking her future seriously. She's currently pushing her body to the absolute limit, counting out every grueling rep until she hits 25. Her maid, Huen, is honestly shocked to see her working this hard, offering her some much-needed water. Even the guards are starting to notice that the young miss isn't just fooling around with the master anymore. But Xian isn't just doing this for her health. She's thinking back to her friends, those incredible, ethereal beings like Yuechen, and realizing she needs to level up if she ever wants to truly stand by their side. In her head, she's already a legendary kung fu master, imagining a future where they treat her like an equal and their friendship reaches a whole new level. But for now, she's just a sweaty mess who really misses them. Suddenly, her father appears, asking with his usual stern face if she's being lazy again. She proudly tells him she's already smashed out 25 push-ups, admitting that training is way better than being rot-maxing in her room. Seeing her rare moment of discipline, her father asks the golden question, "Do you want to go out?" Our girl's eyes light up instantly as she screams yes. Since she's been behaving so well, her father actually grants her permission to leave the estate for a while. She's literally vibrating with joy, but there's a catch: she has to take Silly and Woohoo with her for protection. She doesn't care though, even telling the other servants they can take the day off. As they hit the bustling streets, Xian sighs about how strict her dad has been lately, but Silly reminds her that the boss only acts that way because he's terrified for her safety. She knows she's been a total magnet for trouble recently, wondering if she's just having a cursed year. We see a flashback of her father pull Silly aside, desperately telling him to keep a close eye on her and to drag her back home the second anything feels off. Silly had asked why he'd even let her out if he was that worried, and the master admitted he hasn't been the best father since her mother passed away. He knows his daughter isn't the type to stay locked in a room, and he can't keep crushing her spirit. He just wants her to be safe while she lives her life. Back in the present, Silly is watching her like a hawk, but he seems to have something on his mind. He asks Xian if she thinks it's possible for two people who aren't blood-related to look exactly the same. The other servants just blink at him like he's lost his mind, so he nervously laughs it off, claiming he just saw a random twin sister and it was nothing. Our girl isn't entirely convinced by his suspicious behavior, but her train of thought is immediately derailed by the most heavenly scent in the world. It's barbecued chicken, and Xian looks like she's about to risk it all for a drumstick. She marches up to the stall and demands 5 whole chickens, making her guards freak out about her budget and her waistline. But she's a total sweetheart, explaining that she bought enough for everyone, including her dad. While they're all touched by her kindness, Xian is secretly plotting. She really wants to visit her friends, but she remembers the red-haired girl's terrifying threat to turn her into dead meat if she ever leaked their location. She realizes she has to ditch her babysitters, so she gets a bright idea and suggests a game of hide and seek, promising the winner an extra barbecue chicken. Trust our girl to use snacks as a weapon of mass distraction. Xian is wandering through the dense bamboo forest, struggling to carry a massive load of gifts. She's brought barbecue chickens and new clothes as an apology for the trouble she caused, but there's just one problem: she has absolutely no idea where she's going. Suddenly, a dark shadow with glowing red eyes looms behind her, and both our girl and the fox-eared girl let out a soul-piercing scream. "Why are you shouting like that, pie-face?" The fox girl yells while Xian realizes it's just her bonbon head acquaintance. Xian tries to act touched, asking if the girl came to pick her up, but the feisty ethereal snaps that she only followed the delicious smell of the chicken. Xian offers to share the feast if the girl shows her the way to their hideout. Meanwhile, by the river, the mysterious and powerful Yuechen is focused on the water with predatory intensity. With a sharp gaze from those glowing red eyes, Yuechen senses Xian's approach. Before our girl can even say hello, a fish comes flying out of the water and goes bap right against her forehead. Xian just laughs it off, presenting her peace offerings with a radiant smile. "I got you some clothes and food, Xian-chan," she beams, clearly hoping to win them over. Yuechen remains cold, questioning why a human is being so suspiciously kind to them. The fox girl tries to scare her off, transforming her face into a beastly snarl and screaming, "Don't you know we are monsters?" But our girl is built different. She just giggles, knowing deep down they aren't the man-eating type. "Humans and ethereals can't be friends," the fox girl insists, though it's hard to take her seriously while she's aggressively stuffing her face with Xian's food. Yuechen finally steps in, her voice like ice as she agrees that they are far too different to ever be companions. "Don't come to us anymore," Yuechen commands, leaving our poor heroine stunned. They tell her she should go find some normal human friends, but Xian's expression finally crumbles. She reveals her lonely past, how her mother died young and her father was always away on missions, leaving her surrounded only by people paid to be there. She just wanted to be around someone cool for once, which explains why she didn't even flinch at the sight of dead bodies. Despite the emotional confession, Yuechin is firm, telling her to go home because being near them only puts her in danger. Xian turns to leave, her heart heavy with a rejection she didn't see coming. She wonders why Yuechin acts so cold when she's saved her life so many times. When she reunites with her father's men, they're all smiles, thanking the young miss for the barbecue chicken she supposedly shared during their game of hide and seek. Her father, however, sees right through her, asking why she looks so upset if she actually had fun. Xian fakes a cheerful tone, telling him she can find her own fun while he's busy. Her father tries to soften the blow, promising they'll travel together when he finally has some free time. He instructs the guards to take Xian home while he heads off to get some appetizers. As he walks through the crowded market, his sharp eyes catch something or someone lurking in the shadows. He intentionally ducks into a secluded alleyway, leading his pursuer away from the main road. Stopping in his tracks, he turns to face the hooded figure trailing him and growls, "You have been following me, what can I help you with?" While Xian and Yuechin share a rare moment of peace, things are getting dangerously tense in the city streets. A man in a wide-brimmed hat suddenly stops in his tracks, feeling a chilling presence looming right behind him. He's shaken to his core, sweating as he wonders exactly when this person managed to sneak up on him without making a single sound. The figure is completely shrouded in black, wearing a terrifying metal mask designed to look like a row of jagged, skeletal teeth. Our guy here claims he's the owner of the Liu guarding establishment and tries to flex his authority, demanding to see some travel documents. But the stranger just stands there, offering nothing but a cold, heavy silence that would make anyone's skin crawl. Finally, a voice rings out from behind the veil, bluntly telling him, "I believe you have no right to do that." The owner is completely stumped because he can't even tell the person's gender from the voice, but he decides to double down anyway. He mentions a special mission tied to a recent murder case, explaining that he's been following this mysterious figure because they match a very suspicious description. The masked figure finally speaks up with a chilling, low-voiced warning, "So you took a look at what was in the box? You shouldn't have been that curious, young man." Before the owner can even process the threat, a sudden, violent strike forces him to jump back. His hat is sent flying into the dirt as the gravity of the situation finally hits him. "You better not go further than this," the figure hisses, "or you might lose your own life." But our owner isn't about to tuck tail and run. He draws his blade, declaring that he won't be polite anymore. He thinks he's got the upper hand when he manages to get behind the stranger, pressing his sword directly against their back. The figure slowly begins to turn, and we see those piercing, blood-red eyes that belong to none other than Yuechin in full-on assassin mode. In an absolute heartbeat, she lunges forward with a blinding dash. Their blades meet in a chaotic storm of sparks and steel, and the owner quickly realizes his mistake. This lean opponent is actually freakishly strong. He stares in absolute horror as Yuechin begins to move with supernatural speed, appearing like a multi-armed demon of death. With a final, devastating release of power, she unleashes a strike so heavy that the very ground beneath them shatters into a million pieces. The atmosphere suddenly shifts as a violent tremor rips through the city, sending birds scattering into the sky and roof tiles crashing to the pavement. What was that sound? The citizens cry out in terror as the very earth beneath them begins to shake. In the center of the chaos, a man with deep scars across his face grits his teeth against the pressure. He looks completely exhausted, his eyes narrowed as he tries to make sense of the sudden destruction. A massive trail of dark, shadowy energy has been carved into the street, leading directly to a confrontation between two powerful warriors. A masked figure wielding a blade that glows with a sinister red light towers over him. "It's none of your business," the assassin coldly warns. "If you keep sticking your nose into this, I won't miss next time." The mysterious attacker vanishes into the shadows, leaving the man to stagger back to the Liu guarding establishment. "Boss is home," the workers shout, but their excitement turns to horror when they see his state. Our girl Xian rushes to her father's side, her face pale with worry. "What happened, Dad?" she asks, but he just offers a weak excuse about helping someone who got robbed. Xian isn't buying the hero act for a second and starts dabbing his wounds. "It looks so serious. Does it hurt?" she frets while he tries to play it cool. She doesn't let him off easy though, scolding him like she's the one in charge. "I thought you were just getting appetizers. You're not that young anymore, you need to be careful." Dad realizes he's losing the argument, so he pulls the ultimate distract the daughter move, marriage talk. "I should run a competition to find you a husband so I won't have to worry," he suggests, bringing up potential suitors like Commander Landa or the neighbor's son. Xian is absolutely disgusted by the options. "No, he looks like a bear," she yells. When her father asks what kind of boys she actually likes, Xian goes into a full-blown trance. "I like someone who is tall, elegant, kind, and strong. With long hair and white skin," she sighs dreamily. Then reality hits her like a freight train. She realizes she just described the mysterious Yuechin perfectly. "Wait, isn't that Xian-chan? She's a girl?" she screams internally, her face turning a bright, panicked shade of red. While our heroine is having a sexual identity crisis, an eagle soars across the sunset-drenched sky. The bird of prey carries a secret message, landing on the arm of a stern-looking man who quickly unrolls the tiny scroll. The orders are simple: play it by ear. He looks toward the horizon, knowing that the time to uncover the truth is drawing near. Back at the hideout, Yuechin sits in silence, her back to her red-haired companion. The red-haired girl is clearly pouting, her cheeks puffed out in a classic case of jealousy. We're leaving tomorrow, Xian. Are you going to say goodbye to her? She asks, referring to our girl as Pieface. Yuechen's response is short and icy, no. She claims that they are from different worlds and that Xian isn't the person they need for their mission. We should stay away from those who have nothing to do with that tragedy, she adds, her voice dripping with hidden pain. She tells the younger girl to get ready because they'll be meeting up with Landa in the morning, though the redhead is still skeptical about working with Coalhead. Yuechen stares off into the distance, her resolve hardening. I need to find out what happened and get those people. No matter what it takes, she vows, and her loyal companion promises to follow her to the very end. The world of the ethereals is as beautiful as it is dangerous. The commander arrives at the Liu residence, and the old man is already laying on the flattery thick. How did you get hurt? The father asks, looking concerned. The commander brushes it off like it's nothing. He's actually here to say his goodbyes before a big mission, but he has one request. He needs to see Miss Liu before he heads out. This sends the dad's shipping brain into overdrive, and he immediately starts screaming for Xian to get down here. While they wait, the old man starts the sales pitch, telling the commander what a good and honest girl his daughter is. He even starts dropping the ultimate, I'm getting old and might die soon guilt trip, begging the commander to take care of her. The commander, being the literal knight in shining armor he is, promises to keep her safe and sound. Behind them, the staff are sweating bullets because it's obvious these two are not talking about the same thing. Xian finally shows up looking totally done with her dad's theatrics as he scurries away to give them privacy. The silence is deafening until Xian finally asks, why are you here? He cuts straight to the chase, asking if she knows why Yuechen told her to never come back. Xian's face turns beet red as she screams, did you follow me? He doesn't answer and instead drags her outside to talk properly, leaving her dad cheering in the background like he just won the lottery. Once they're in the street, he reveals that he and the ethereals have actually settled their differences. Our girl is floored, wondering how on earth he managed to make friends with them when he was trying to arrest them a few days ago. He explains that he apologized and even brought gifts, but Xian still feels like she's being picked on. Is she picking on me? She wonders, feeling a bit left out. She asks why the ethereals seem to hate humans so much. He tells her it's not about hate. They're leaving this place and don't want her getting dragged into their mess anymore. Before she can process the news that they're leaving, the sound of thundering hooves fills the air. A group of masked riders comes charging through the crowded market like they own the place. Right in their path is a tiny kid named Guzai, totally oblivious to the danger. Watch out, they scream as a horse rears up right over the poor toddler. In a flash, the commander lunges forward, shielding both Xian and the child as the riders blast past. The kid's candy apple gets crushed into dust, but thank goodness everyone is in one piece. The mother rushes over, sobbing and thanking the commander and Miss Liu for being heroes. Xian is genuinely impressed, telling him he's such a reliable person. But the commander is more confused by her bravery, asking why she'd risk her life for a random kid she barely knows. She just smiles, admitting she thought she was fast enough to push him away, and the commander finally realizes she truly is a good person. He mentions that Yuechen and the others still aren't fans of him being around. Xian's heart sinks as she realizes they're leaving tonight without even saying goodbye to her. He asks why she's trying so hard to get them to like her anyway. Her answer is simple. Besides her dad, Yuechen is the only one who ever saved her without needing a reason. She assumes the commander is just there to be the messenger for the final goodbye. But then he looks her in the eye and drops the ultimate bombshell. Would you like to join us? While our girl and the mysterious white-haired figure stand together, the tension in the air is thick enough to cut with a blade. Xian is absolutely floored when she's asked to join a high-stakes investigation, stammering, join you guys? Did Xian-chan ask you to invite me? The man beside her doesn't sugarcoat the situation, admitting that while she's the only one who can help, stepping into this mess is basically a one-way ticket to Danger Town. It's a long story, why don't we talk at dinner? He suggests, leading our worried heroine through the bustling streets. Meanwhile, over at the Liu guarding establishment, the atmosphere is deceptively calm as the sun begins to set. The boss is out in the courtyard watering his flowers, prompting his worker Silly to ask why he's gardening in the dark. The boss admits it's a rare moment of peace for him because he believes Xian is finally safe under the commander's protection. But the shadow of a past mission still haunts him, and he asks Silly if he remembers that one specific package they delivered. With a grim look, he mutters, I would never forget what I saw in that package. And you just know it was something absolutely nightmare-inducing. He's convinced that the person who ordered that mission is the puppet master behind all their recent troubles, especially after a run-in with a suspicious figure yesterday. This mystery man wasn't just some thug. He was powerful enough to hurt the boss easily and warned him to stop asking questions. Silly looks panicked, asking, are you saying that we are going to report this to the authorities? The boss stares into the distance, his scarred face showing the weight of a man who knows a storm is coming. After a long silence, he decides their best bet is to put their lives in the hands of the military, saying, I think we can trust Commander Landa. Back at the restaurant, our girl Xian is having a total identity crisis as she realizes she looks exactly like Princess Yuechen. It finally clicks, that's why the powerful figure has been playing guardian angel this whole time. Wait, does that mean you are going to use me as bait? She asks, her eyes wide with realization. She starts comparing her situation to the legendary Journey to the West, feeling like a lone human traveling with three powerful ethereals. The man doesn't deny it, telling her they are in the same boat now and that they desperately need her cooperation. He pleads with her to consider the offer, promising that her family will be treated like royalty if she helps them. But while they're making deals over dinner, the Liu estate is about to become a slaughterhouse. A group of masked assassins kicks the front gate down with terrifying force. The workers are caught completely off guard while finishing their evening chores. As the ninjas flood the courtyard, the peaceful evening is shattered. "Who are you?" one worker screams, but he doesn't get an answer. A massive gloved hand suddenly clamps down on his face. The lead assassin hoists the poor man into the air, growling, "Do as what the boss told." With a sickening crush, the assassin ends the man's life right then and there, coldly ordering his subordinates to kill everyone here. Panic erupts as the remaining workers realize this isn't a robbery, it's an execution. Inside, the boss hears the screams and drops his book, realizing the danger has finally arrived at his doorstep. A blood-soaked worker stumbles through the door, gasping out a final bow, "Boss." Before the boss can even react, a blade slashes across the worker's back, spraying blood everywhere. The boss can only watch in absolute horror as his loyal men are cut down like wheat. The lead assassin steps forward, his eyes cold and devoid of any mercy. Without a word, the killer dashes toward the boss, blade drawn for a lethal strike. "Watch out, boss," another worker screams, throwing himself into the path of the sword. The assassin doesn't even flinch, carving through the brave worker with brutal precision. Blood splatters across the floor as the establishment is turned into a graveyard in a matter of seconds. The boss is left standing alone among the bodies of his people, his voice trembling with rage and grief. "Why are you doing this to my family? We don't even know each other," he bellows, clutching his fist in agony. The assassin merely stares at him, the moonlight reflecting off his bloody blade, and delivers the chilling truth. "Because you know too much." While Xian and Yuechin share a rare moment of peace, a shadow looms over the city. A mysterious masked figure calculates the alignment of the stars, noting that when the full moon rises, the spirits will gather in one specific place. Looking out over the rooftops, they pinpoint their target as a column of spiritual energy rises into the twilight sky. "So there it is," they whisper, watching the convergence from afar. Meanwhile, at the Liu establishment, the scene is a total bloodbath. The head of the house lies defeated and bleeding out as a hooded assassin looms over him with a dripping blade. "Such a fool," the killer sneers. "You don't even have a weapon with you, yet you're trying to fight us." Hidden in the foliage, the masked observer watches the assassins prepare to finish the job. To ensure no evidence remains of their royal connections, the assassins decide to burn the entire house to the ground. The masked figure isn't here to save anyone, though. They view the Liu family as a necessary sacrifice for their grand alliance. Reaching into a pouch, they prepare to harvest the harvest. "An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth," they declare, holding up a sinister yellow talisman. With a sharp flick, the papers swish through the air, landing perfectly on the foreheads of the freshly deceased. Suddenly, the corpses' eyes snap open, glowing with a terrifying, unholy light. As the fire begins to roar, the assassins realize they aren't alone with the dead. One of the hooded men is caught completely off guard as a blade is shoved straight through his chest. "What?" he gasps, looking down at his own blood. The assassins panic, screaming, "Didn't they die already?" as the undead family members begin to fight back with supernatural strength. In the flickering shadows of the flames, the slaughter is absolute as the dead reclaim their vengeance. The assassins find themselves trapped in a literal hellscape. The undead Liu guards stand tall amidst the inferno, their movements stiff but deadly. With glowing eyes fixed on their killers, they prove that death was only the beginning of their duty. The roof of the establishment begins to crumble as the fire consumes everything in its path. Unaware of the horror, our girl Xian is strolling through the city, telling her companion that she needs to have a serious talk with her strict father. She's hopeful that if he hears something positive, he might finally go easy on her. But her smile vanishes when a villager comes running through the street screaming, "Fire, fire." When she hears that it's the Liu guarding establishment on the line, her heart drops. The news that there are supposedly no survivors leaves her completely paralyzed with shock. Across town, Yuechin is growing impatient, wondering where her partner could be. Her red-haired companion is busy trash-talking that pie-face, Xian, complaining that she's nothing but trouble. But Yuechin's attention is diverted by the thick black smoke rising in the distance. Without a word of explanation, she takes to the sky, leaping over the bamboo groves as her friend yells for her to wait. Back at the ruins, the masked necromancer begins the final phase of their ritual. Giant cosmic eyes manifest in the darkened sky, peering down at the burning wreckage. As the souls of the departed are binded in reincarnation, the figure prays to the gods to punish those who brought turbulence to the world. With the transmutation complete and the Liu house reduced to ash, the masked figure vanishes into the night to find their next victim. Xian and the mysterious Yuechin find themselves caught in the middle of a brewing storm. Our girl is sprinting through the streets, her heart hammered against her ribs as she screams out in denial. "It can't be, please don't let it be you, Dad," she pleads, tears already blurring her vision as the smell of smoke fills the air. One look at the towering inferno and her soul shatters, a single agonizing cry for her father escaping her lips. The neighborhood is in total chaos as men scramble for water to douse the flames consuming her home. Bystanders whisper in shock, recognizing our poor heroine and wondering how the Liu family could have offended someone so powerful to deserve this. Xian stares at the wreckage, her world turning to ash before her very eyes. "Dad," she shrieks, lunging toward the burning building with a desperate strength. But a firm hand catches her arm, a man shouting that it's far too dangerous to go inside. She doesn't care about the heat. She can see a silhouette lying motionless amidst the leaping flames. "Let go of me, my father is still in there," she screams, struggling against her captor. She watches helplessly as the Liu guarding establishment sign is engulfed in fire. The man warns her to watch out as the structural beams begin to give way. The heat is unbearable as the very roof of her life starts to buckle. With a deafening crash, the heavy signage falls, sending sparks flying everywhere. The guard stands back in shock as the establishment is completely leveled. Our girl falls to her knees, her spirit broken as the white-haired figure Yuechin appears by her side. "Xian," he murmurs, his eyes filled with a rare pity for the girl who just lost everything. She looks up at him, her face a mask of pure agony as she whispers about her father being trapped. In the depths of the flames, she sees the reflection of her own ruin. Suddenly, her mind drifts to a memory of her father, begging him to stay and promising to be a better daughter. "I'll do whatever you say, please don't go," she cries out to his retreating back. But in this vision, her father only turns with a sad gaze, telling her he can no longer be by her side. He tells her she must leave this place as his image begins to dissolve into light. Xian reaches out one last time, screaming for him before her eyes snap open. She finds herself lying in a strange bed, her breath hitching as she tries to orient herself. "Why am I here?" she wonders, desperately hoping the fire was just a horrific nightmare. But the grim faces of Yuechin and her allies tell a different story. The silence in the room is deafening as the weight of reality settles back onto her chest. Yuechin looks at her with a heavy gaze, simply saying, "Let's go." Xian's hand trembles as she grips the sheets, her knuckles turning white from the strain. They lead her out to a clearing where several fresh mounds of earth mark the end of her old life. She stands before the graves, the why screaming in her head until she can't hold it in any longer. She collapses again, her forehead hitting the dirt as the world's cruelty becomes too much to bear. "Why is this happening to me?" she wails, her voice echoing through the silent forest. Her companion explains that she's been in a coma for days and the neighbors have already buried her family, but he has something even more chilling to tell her. He saw deep cuts on her father's back, making it clear this wasn't just an accident, but a brutal murder. Yuechin and the rest of the group stand amidst the wreckage as the gravity of the situation sets in. Our poor girl's psyche is absolutely shattered, bowing before them in the dirt. "Yes, that might be possible," she whispers, her voice cracking as she searches for any sliver of hope. She looks up at their stoic faces, her desperation turning into a plea. "Aren't you ethereals? Don't you guys have good noses?" she cries out, hoping their supernatural senses can track the monsters who did this. She begs them to help find her father's killers, promising to do absolutely anything they ask. But Xian, our resident red-headed firecracker, doesn't believe in sugarcoating the truth. She bluntly explains that the fire was so intense, it burnt away every trace of a scent they could have followed. Psyche stares at her, the realization that the trail is cold hitting her like a physical blow. The commander steps forward to offer what little information they have, noting that some of the bodies were dressed differently from her family's servants. The problem is, in the charred remains, it's impossible to tell if these strangers were friends or the very enemies who brought the flame. Yuechin reaches into his robes and produces a mysterious yellow slip of paper. "Is that a fu?" Psyche asks, her eyes wide as Yuechin asks if she's ever seen the talisman before. She examines the scrap of paper, her brow furrowing in confusion. Xian points out that almost all the attackers had these on them, suggesting the idiots might have accidentally caught themselves in their own blaze. It's a terrifying thought. This wasn't just a random attack. There was a calculated power behind this fu. Yuechin stares at the talisman, knowing this is the only real clue they have to work with. Psyche clutches the burnt scrap, her grief finally hardening into a cold, sharp resolve. The commander watches her carefully, sensing the shift in her spirit as he weighs the question she asked him earlier. Suddenly, our girl makes her move. "I would join you guys," she declares, her eyes burning with a new fire. "I need to find out the truth for them." Yuechin tries to warn her about the sheer lethality of their path, but Xian just rolls her eyes, muttering that humans can be way scarier than any ethereal anyway. Psyche doesn't flinch, promising that if things get ugly, she won't be a burden to the team. She turns to Yuechin, her voice breaking again. "Please, I don't have anyone else," she sobs, laying her heart bare. Yuechin looks down at her, his expression unreadable as he processes her desperate plea. Xian just watches from the side, her face a mask of indifference as the wind picks up. As the sun begins to set, the sky turns a brilliant, mocking blue. The clouds drift lazily by, oblivious to the tragedy below as the horizon blades into evening colors. A lone carriage begins its journey down the dusty road, carrying the weight of their new alliance. Inside the cramped space, the silence is heavy enough to drown in. Psyche sits in the corner, a shell of the girl she used to be, while Yuechin and Xian sit across from her, their presence a constant reminder of the world she's just entered. "Here, Psyche," Yuechin says, breaking the quiet. This is the only thing without much damage I could find after that fire. He hands her a bundle, telling her he kept it specifically for her. Psyching's breath hitches as she looks down. It's her father's robe, charred at the edges and smelling of smoke, but undeniably his. She remembers her father's voice, how he always warned her that his work was dangerous and he might not come home one day. He always promised to try his best for her sake, and she used to scold him for saying such unlucky things. Now, she whispers, the reality of his absence finally sinking in as she clutches the fabric. The commander looks on, remembering the promise he made to her father to protect her if the worst ever happened. Psyching breaks down again, the weight of saying goodbye to the dead becoming too much to bear. But Xian has zero patience for the waterworks. Those two are the hardest things in life, she snaps. You're only getting through one of them, yet you're crying like a baby. She looks Psyching dead in the eye and tells her that her life has clearly been way too easy until now. Psyching is stunned, the harsh words cutting through her grief like a knife. Yuechin adds his own chilling advice, telling her she better get prepared for the nightmares the future has in store. Stealing her heart, our girl wipes her face and resolves to be strong as the carriage rattles toward their dangerous destiny. Our girl Xian and her mysterious companions have finally hit the road together. As the moon hangs high over the silent forest, the group settles around a crackling campfire to discuss their next move. The red-haired fox girl isn't exactly thrilled about their new addition, asking if it's really a good idea to travel with a mere human who can't help them. The man in the group doesn't miss a beat, teasingly asking if she's just worried she isn't strong enough to protect her. "Ha, you don't say, I know how good I am," she boasts, her ego easily stroked. Yuechin watches the flames, her expression unreadable as they discuss the danger. They realize that because Xian looks so much like a certain princess, she's a magnet for trouble, but that trouble might lead them to the information they need. The fox girl is horrified that they'd use a human as bait, snapping that Yuechin isn't as righteous as she thought, and suggesting they just find the girl a husband so she can live a normal life. Yuechin calmly points out that Xian would be in danger regardless of where she goes, until they find out who slaughtered her family. She looks Xian's way, deciding that the girl is much safer with them than she would be alone. Besides, as the man points out, the poor girl literally has nowhere else to go. The fox girl sighs, finally relenting to Yuechin's will, though Yuechin reminds them all that humans are incredibly fragile creatures. Inside the small traveling cart, Xian tries to get some rest, wondering how they're all going to fit in such a cramped space. She eventually drifts off into a fitful sleep as the night deepens. Under the vast, starry sky, the fire eventually dies down to glowing embers. The man stays outside to keep watch. While inside the cart, the two powerful women have dropped their human guises to save space, curled up as a red fox and a sleek white cat. The white cat, Yuechin, keeps her eyes tightly shut at first, but she soon senses something is wrong and snaps them open. She looks over to find Xian's spot empty. Without waking the fox, Yuechin leaps out of the cart window, her feline eyes scanning the dark woods. Deep in the trees, Xian is wandering alone. She finds a clearing on a hill and sits down, staring longingly at the distant lights of the place she called home her entire life. Suddenly, she senses a presence behind her. It's Yuechin back in her human form, draped in white robes. "Are you having a hard time sleeping out?" Yuechin asks softly. Xian looks down, admitting she just wanted one last look at her old life. Yuechin stares at her with those piercing eyes, then asks if she plans on going back to sleep at all. "I'm going to stay with you," Yuechin declares, noting it's far too dangerous for a human to be out alone at night. Xian looks up at her, touched by the gesture. Yuechin's gaze softens as she mentions that the commander told her Xian looks exactly like her previous owner. Xian offers a sad smile, realizing that's likely the only reason she was saved in the first place. Yuechin is quick to correct her, looking her dead in the eye and stating, "You two are not the same." Moved by the sentiment, Xian reaches out and gently takes Yuechin's hand. Yuechin flinches slightly, looking down at their joined hands in surprise. Xian assures her that it's okay. She knows that while they might look the same, she is her own person. "For me, you guys are the most important and the only friends I have now," Xian whispers. Yuechin looks at her for a long moment, the icy walls around her heart seemingly cracking. With a soft she accepts the girl's friendship, finally acknowledging the bond growing between them. Our girl Xian and the gang are finally nearing their destination. Under a clear, bright sky, the journey continues as they push toward the heart of the territory. But of course, the peace is short-lived once our red-headed friend's stomach starts growling. "Ha, I'm so hungry, I want some food," she wails, completely ignoring the fact that she already inhaled a mountain of fish this morning. She leans out of the carriage window, barking orders at the driver. "Hey, Coalhead, can you speed up?" she demands as the town gates finally loom into view. At the entrance, the guards are being absolute menaces to anyone trying to get in. An old man gets shoved aside like trash just because he doesn't have the right traveling papers. Even a merchant arriving with a full carriage gets stopped in his tracks. When the merchant tries to bluff his way through by claiming he's there to make the town rich, the guard straight up kicks him out of the line. Our girl Xian watches the drama from the carriage, sweating bullets. "Do we even have those?" she whispers nervously, looking at her companions. Yuechin doesn't seem bothered at all, calmly stating they won't even need to use the door. Beside her, the redhead is already prepping a fireball to blast their way through, but Xian has to quickly tell her to pipe down and stay calm. When it's finally their turn, the guard barks the usual demand for papers. But instead of a scroll, the driver simply holds up a golden medallion. The guard's eyes nearly pop out of his head the moment he sees it. "I'm sorry, Commander, this way please," he stammers, bowing so low he might hit the pavement. Xian can't help but be a little impressed by the sudden VIP treatment. "Aya, I didn't expect you would be that useful," she teases, though the driver just gives her a pretentious look in return. Their first stop in town is naturally a restaurant. The redhead isn't playing around with her appetite, screaming, "I want 10 chickens." The second they walk through the door, Yuechin keeps it classy, asking for fish, while the commander demands meat. Poor Xian just sighs and settles for some veggies to keep things balanced. A massive, sparkling feast is laid out, and the redhead goes to town like she hasn't seen food in a century. While she's stuffing her face, Yuechin remains focused on the actual mission. "I'm going to ask around if anyone knows about the Fu," she says, hoping to find some clues in this town. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts when a villager bursts into the room screaming about a big problem. Apparently, Minister Su's mansion was just attacked by a monster. The restaurant lady mentions that a priestess is already getting ready for the exorcism. The priestess is this town's saver, she gushes, explaining that all the monks they hired before were totally useless. She even starts drooling, obsessing over how handsome and good-looking this young woman is. She runs off in a daze to go buy a protection charm, leaving Xian and the others to exchange serious looks. "We might find something if we go to that priestess," Yuechin decides, sensing a lid. Xian is a bit hesitant, worried about their cover being blown, but Yuechin gives her a soft, reassuring look. "Don't worry, it's going to be fine," she promises. The trio leaves the restaurant and heads toward the mansion, eventually arriving at the grand, imposing gates of the Su estate. Inside, the handsome priestess is already mid-ritual, waving charms and chanting about subduing evil spirits. The crowd is absolutely losing it, swooning over her every move. "I want to be subdued by you as well," some girls scream from the sidelines, completely starstruck. Unbothered by her fan club, the priestess prepares to unleash a major spell to finish the job. Our story continues with quite the performance, as the crowd watches in awe while the priest strikes a dramatic pose. He's throwing out charms and pointing fingers like his life depends on it, making sure everyone sees just how powerful he is. He lets out a massive ha as golden light erupts around him, leaving the villagers completely starstruck. Suddenly, a series of massive slams and roars echo from inside the house, shaking the very foundations. The crowd holds their breath as the chaotic noise suddenly cuts to a haunting silence. Everyone is sweating bullets, wondering if the great priest actually met his match inside that creepy place. The village leader nervously approaches, asking, "What's happening, priest?" The priest puts on his best, serious face and claims he's successfully trapped the monster inside the house. He suggests the only way to kill it is to burn the whole place down, which sends the leader into a total panic. Our girl's hero acts like this is a huge problem, rubbing his chin and pretending the situation is getting more difficult. He sighs, complaining that it would be such a waste to use his pure gold instrument on such a low-level pest. The leader, desperate to save his family's shrine, promises to give him something even more valuable if he can just handle it without the fire. With a greedy glint in his eye, the priest agrees to try his best for double the pay. He starts chanting some nonsense about his eyes becoming part of the sky and his glance shining like thunder. He orders the crowd to stay back no matter what noise they hear, and the heavy doors slam shut with an ominous thud. From the outside, it sounds like a literal war zone is breaking out behind those doors. Cracks, clanks, and slams fill the air, making the villagers worry if the priest is going to survive this fierce fight. "I'll teach you a lesson," he screams from inside, sounding like a total badass. But wait, inside the house, the truth is way less epic and way more hilarious. The priest is actually just stuffing his face with a delicious chicken leg. And he's not alone. He's got a little fox girl accomplice who is also enjoying the offering feast. They're both having the time of their lives until the priest realizes they've been quiet for too long and might get caught. He tells the little girl to start wailing, even pulling her hair to make it sound convincing to the crowd outside. He starts banging things around and shouting about today being the end of the monster's life, while the fox girl mourns her chicken leg. Outside, the villagers are actually feeling a bit bad because the monster sounds like a crying kid. But the leader tells them to shut up, insisting that a monster doesn't deserve anyone's pity. Eventually, the noise dies down, and the suspense is killing everyone standing in the courtyard. The doors finally open, and the priest walks out, letting out a satisfied burp. He holds up a small, pathetic-looking fox, claiming it's a 1,000-year-old fox ethereal that he successfully captured. Then he pulls out his broken gold ring and starts faking tears, saying he's heartbroken over losing an instrument he's had for years. The leader is so grateful he doesn't even question it, telling his men to hurry up and get the money to pay for the loss. The priest tries to play humble, saying it's really okay, while his hand is already reaching for the loot. He catches the heavy bag of money with a huge grin, walking away with his prize tucked into a net on his back. Once they're far enough away, the little fox in the net complains about how uncomfortable it is and asks when she can turn back into a human. The priest just laughs it off, telling her there's no rush and that they should go get some wine to celebrate their hard work. But their victory lap might be cut short, as a sharp-eyed traveler nearby catches a whiff of something suspicious. "Please wait a second," the man calls out, and our scammer priest stops dead in his tracks, wondering if his little game is finally over. Our story continues as we see a glimpse of the chaos to come. In the middle of the bustling street, A suspicious-looking girl dressed as a priestess finds herself face-to-face with a stern man. She's clearly on edge, snapping, "Who are you?" The man doesn't back down, mentioning that she's got a fox ethereal trapped in her net and that he has a few questions for her. Our girl narrowed her eyes, scanning him for any sign of trouble. She spots a golden badge tucked into his belt and her heart nearly stops. Is he an officer? "Don't come any closer, what do you want?" she shrieks, throwing her hand up to keep him at a distance. Watching from the safety of a nearby cart, our heroine wonders if the priestess has already realized that these strangers aren't exactly human. But the man tries to de-escalate the situation, insisting they just want to talk and they come in peace. The priestess breathes a sigh of relief, realizing they aren't actually there to arrest her for fraud. Instantly, her con artist mode flips back on as she arrogantly asks if they want to buy some of her charms or maybe just an autograph. But then the mysterious white-haired figure, Yuechin, steps forward along with the fiery Xian, making the priestess realize she's dealing with more than just one traveler. The priestess's eyes suddenly lock onto a stunning jade ball hanging from Yuechin's waist, and you can practically see the money signs flashing in her pupils. She lets out a fake cough, putting on her best doom and gloom voice to tell them they are getting involved in a massive catastrophe. "I see that all of the problems come from that jade ball you're wearing," she declares, pointing a dramatic finger at Yuechin. Our heroine watches the scene unfold, sweating bullets as she realizes the priestess is about to pull a major scam. "This jade ball will lead you to a great disaster," the priestess warns with a straight face. Yuechin, completely unbothered, simply asks why. The priestess has to think fast to keep the lie going, claiming that the jade is actually haunted by its previous owner. Xian and Yuechin share a look, wondering if this girl is for real. The priestess reaches out a hand, acting like she's doing them a massive favor by offering to get rid of it for free. But Yuechin isn't a fool, bluntly replying with a cold no. The priestess is stunned, but Yuechin explains that if the item is truly haunted, she refuses to pass that danger on to anyone else. The priestess tries one last desperate push, asking if she's really willing to keep it even if it kills her. When it's clear the scam isn't working, she lets out an annoyed tusk, waving them off and telling them they aren't lucky enough for her help. Just as she's walking away, the bodyguard calls out for her to wait. She turns back with a smug grin, thinking they've finally changed their minds. Instead, he holds up a scrap of paper and asks if she knows which faction it belongs to. Having no clue and realizing there's no money to be made here, she snaps that she's never seen it before and leaves. "Such a waste of time," she mutters as she retreats into the crowd. Xian watches her go, complaining that the girl didn't seem like a real priestess at all. Since they didn't get any useful information, Yuechin decides they should find a place to stay for the night. From the cart, our heroine watches them with a heavy heart, sensing that things are about to get much more complicated. Meanwhile, the priestess is still fuming about the missed opportunity with that expensive jade. Suddenly, she stops in her tracks, hearing a strange noise. She looks down at the fox spirit she caught in her net, noticing the poor thing is shivering uncontrollably. "What happened? Why are you shivering?" she asks, confused. The fox looks up with wide, terrified eyes and delivers a chilling warning. The people she was just talking to aren't just strangers, they are incredibly powerful ethereals. Our girl Xian and the mysterious Yuechin are caught in a web of secrets as their journey through this treacherous world continues. Down in the shadows of a quiet alleyway, Hueming and his fox girl companion Tangerine are hiding out. Hueming is absolutely shook after spotting our main group. "Are you saying those three are ethereals?" he gasps in total disbelief. Tangerine confirms his worst fears, explaining that these beings are on a completely different level because they can maintain full human forms. It gets even worse when they realize one of them is actually a high-ranking officer. "How scary," Hueming mutters, his face pale with worry. He decides right then and there that they need to pack their bags and ghost this town the second they've had a chance to rest. As they watch from the safety of the brick walls, a carriage rumbles by. It makes its way through the busy town square, and inside we see our poor heroine Xian looking out at the world she no longer recognizes. Tangerine notices something that makes her heart sink. "Actually, there are 4 of them. I saw another one in the cart," she whispers, her ears drooping. Hueming's eyes practically bulge out of his head. "Gosh, are you going to eat that human being?" he screams internally, reaching peak levels of panic. Tangerine wonders if they should try to save her, but Hueming isn't exactly feeling like a hero. He reminds her that he's just a fraud and they'd be walking straight into a death trap. "What I earn can barely feed us. Sympathy is useless," he declares, trying to sound cold. He turns his back on the carriage, insisting they focus on their own survival. Tangerine can only stare after him, her heart heavy with pity for the girl in the cart. We see a brief flash of the day Hueming first took her in, shouting that her name would be Tangerine from that day forward. He had promised that they would share their weal and woe together, and Tangerine had happily agreed. Back in the present, she lingers for a moment, before reluctantly scurrying after him. Meanwhile, the scary group has arrived at the Wind Tavern. The Red Fox girl is already in a foul mood, scoffing that the priestess they encountered earlier was a total joke, She didn't even notice we are ethereals, she sneers, her fangs practically showing. The commander agrees that the priestess was completely useless to their cause. As they gather around a table, they discuss their ultimate goal, the capital. They know they have to go back to where the tragedy first began. Xian listens intently, her expression filled with a mix of fear and determination. The group notes that while they are immortal, humans like Xian are fragile and destined to grow old. They decide to focus on dinner first since they're at such a high-class establishment. Xian is amazed by the luxury, but the red fox is busy throwing a world-class tantrum. Why can that pie face have this whole fancy room for herself? She screams, pointing a finger at our girl. The commander doesn't miss a beat, reminding her that Xian was born into a wealthy family and deserves some comfort. Yuechin, our elegant white-haired figure, stays silent and stoic while the red fox continues to rage. Xian's mind is racing as she realizes these ethereals will never have money problems because they can literally turn rocks into gold. The commander and red fox continue their petty bickering, with him even threatening to arrest her. Yuechin has clearly had enough of the drama and announces she's going to her room to rest. She pauses to offer Xian a rare moment of kindness, telling her to call if she needs any help. The commander also bids her a polite goodnight, acknowledging how tiring her day must have been. As the door clicks shut, Xian is left alone with her thoughts. She looks down at the ground, her heart aching with a new kind of loneliness. What should I do as a human being? To not make myself a burden to them? She wonders, the weight of her mortality finally starting to sink in. The group settles in for a massive feast at the best tavern in town. The table is absolutely loaded with enough food to feed an army, and the staff can't stop pampering them. Have some more, priestess, they chirp while our group goes to town on the roasted pork. Xian looks on with a smile, thinking our girl looks totally adorable while she's stuffing her face. Even little Tangerine is living her best life, having been adopted just a few days ago after losing her parents. But of course, some local drunks have to ruin the vibe. A priestess eating at a fancy place like this? Give me a break, one of them scoffed. Our boy isn't about to let that slide, whispering to Tangerine to see if those two are even worth his time. Tangerine just keeps chewing, barely paying them any mind. The drunk keeps pushing his luck, shouting, "What are you looking at, fraud?" Our boy just smirks and leans back. "Oh, are you talking to me? You look a little pale, sir, almost like you're haunted." The drunk laughs it off, claiming his family is perfectly fine. He even starts bragging that he wouldn't mind if his fierce wife kicked the bucket so he could get a new one. Talk about a total trash human. Well, your dream might come true sooner than you think, our boy says with a chilling grin. The ladies are visibly shaken by his words. He points right at the man's left shoulder, claiming there's a woman there who's very interested in what he just said. The man's eyes go wide with fear, and suddenly he feels it. A terrifying green-skinned ghost woman is draped over him, licking his face and asking if he wants to spend some time together. The man loses his absolute mind, screaming "Ghost!" as he bolts out of the tavern without even paying his bill. The staff are left staring in shock, wondering if their tavern really is haunted. Little Tangerine just wipes her mouth, casually mentioning that the man's clothes tasted like cheap alcohol. The tavern returns to its usual expensive, show-filled atmosphere, but Tangerine is still a bit weirded out by the whole thing. Across the room, our girl spots some familiar faces. Tangerine's eyes go wide as she recognizes them. "It's the ethereals we bumped into this morning," she whispers. "It's Hugh Aiming and that red fox girl, and they're clearly not locals either." Our group decides to keep a low profile and finish their meal as fast as possible. Hugh Aiming seems to sense something, looking around with those sharp eyes of his. The red fox girl is too busy complaining about Xian not being hungry to notice anything. Hugh Aiming just sighs, clearly annoyed by her constant chatter. "Being emotional is a kind of wisdom, not that a simple-minded fox like you would understand," he says, leaving her fuming. Later that night, our girl finally gets some alone time. She looks at the shadow on the screen, ready to wash away the day's stress. She checks the water in the wooden tub, noting how steamy and inviting it looks. She's feeling a bit reflective, wondering how her life turned into this crazy drama. "I should just get in and think about my future," she sighs, stepping one foot into the tub. But disaster strikes, the floor is incredibly slippery. With a massive splash, she goes face first into the water. She comes up sputtering and coughing, totally drenched. But when she finally opens her eyes, her heart nearly stops. Yuechin, the mysterious white-haired figure, is standing right there, looking down at her with a very serious expression. Our girl is trying to enjoy a peaceful soak, but her privacy is short-lived when the white-haired figure, Yuechin, suddenly appears. Xian is completely mortified, frozen in the water as her unexpected guest stands there. Yuechin looks as stoic and serious as ever, seemingly unfazed by the situation. Our heroine's face turns a deep shade of crimson as she realizes she's being watched. "Why are you here, Xian-chan?" She panics, while Yuechin calmly explains that she simply heard a noise and came to check on her. The shock of the intrusion sends a literal shiver down Xian's spine. As she huddles in the tub, she can't help but wonder if this icy warrior is actually worried about her. It's nothing, I just slipped. Stop staring at me like that." she babbles, desperately trying to preserve what's left of her dignity. Yuechin finally takes the hint, telling her to be careful before turning to leave. The door clacks shut, leaving Xian to pout and wonder just how weak Yuechin thinks she is if a little noise brings her running. Outside, the moon hangs high in the dark, cloudy sky. Back in her own quarters, Yuechin sits at her desk with a brush in hand, lost in thought. She finds herself comparing the flustered girl in the bath to the elegant, smiling princess she once served. Her gaze remains sharp and contemplative as she dwells on the past. Her brooding is interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. It's our girl again, sliding the door open with a cheerful hi. She admits she was feeling a bit bored being alone and asks if Yuechin is practicing her calligraphy. Yuechin reveals that her former owner taught her long ago, while Xian notes that her own father was the one who trained her. Seems like we both learned from the best, Xian chirps with a bright, heartwarming smile. She goes on to mention how the commander told her all about Yuechin's famous owner, and how the princess even earned the respect of monsters. Xian looks at her ally with genuine curiosity, asking, "Aren't you a great person as well?" Yuechin points out that most people wouldn't remain as calm as Xian did after witnessing a decapitation. Xian just laughs it off, claiming she was just focused on Yuechin and that her father's work influenced her quite a bit. Yuechin's expression softens slightly as she mentions that the princess would be happy to know Xian treasures her jade ball. "I just want to get to know you better," Xian admits, her voice filled with sincerity. The tender moment is immediately shattered when a red-haired girl bursts into the room with a tray of fish and a massive burp. "Why are you two alone in this dark room?" she demands, fuming as she catches the strong scent of wine. Xian is quickly shooed out and told to get back to her own room. The redhead isn't letting it go, calling Yuechin a liar because she can tell the stoic woman was actually smiling. Alone in the hallway, Xian resolves that even if she can't be like the princess, she refuses to be a burden to her friends. Meanwhile, at the Wushan temple, another young woman is enjoying a bath, though she's busy grumbling about how expensive their latest tavern stay was. Her little fox-eared companion Huiming watches her sadly, wishing she were strong enough to provide a better life. They begin to plot, wondering if the ethereals they encountered earlier could be their ticket to wealth. They've got their sights set on that jade ball, believing it could fund a very comfortable life for a long time. The story of Yuechin and Xian takes a heartbreaking turn as we dive into a past filled with shadows and survival. In a dusty corner of a forgotten town, a cruel vendor screams at a starving child, "It's you again? Get lost, you beggar." Our girl, young and battered, doesn't even flinch as she's told her parents were nothing but frauds and she's no better. "Shoo, don't bring disease here," the man yells as she manages to snag a single bun and bolts into the alleyways. Behind her, the voices of the townspeople echo with venom, promising to break her legs the next time she's caught stealing. She huddles alone, bitter and hungry, thinking to herself that there isn't a single kind soul in this entire place. As she eats, she passes by a row of stinky, cramped cages, feeling a strange sense of pity. She locks eyes with a small fox, its big eyes brimming with actual tears as it whimpers in terror. Do foxes cry? She wonders before shaking her head and trying to walk away. She tells herself it's none of her business, trying to ignore the heavy silence of the street. But she can't just leave them to a fate of being slaughtered. With a sudden surge of defiance, she sneaks back and clicks the locks open, screaming, "Are you an N?" as the animals burst toward freedom. The chaos is instant, but so is the retribution. A massive hand grabs her and the vendor bellows, "How dare you do that?" The crowd turns into a pack of wolves, blaming the ill-bred creature for releasing their prey and stealing their pork. "Teach her a lesson," they howl as the poor girl is swarmed and beaten for her one act of mercy. As the sun sets behind a lonely cabin in the woods, our girl sits by a flickering fire, her face swollen and bruised. Suddenly, a familiar shadow appears at the door. It's the fox, clutching a small bag. "It's you," she mutters through the pain. "I almost got killed because of you." Instead of running, the fox drops a pile of wild fruit at her feet, looking up with an expression that's far too human. The child stares in disbelief at the quiet log walls, wondering why this animal stayed. The next morning, she finds a feast of fish, meat, and more fruit laid out on a cloth. Our girl is stunned, watching the fox trot back with yet another fresh catch in its mouth. The little creature drops the fish right in front of her, practically insisting she eat. Her stomach lets out a massive gurgle, breaking the tension of the small room. The fox's eyes sparkle with joy as it communicates without words. "You should have some as well." Tears well up in our girl's eyes as she realizes the truth. "No one else has ever given me food except my parents," she whispers, but then she nearly jumps out of her skin when the fox actually speaks. "Why, were you talking? Are you a monster?" she screams, grabbing a stick for protection. The fox doesn't attack. Instead, she transforms into a tiny girl with soft ears and a bushy tail, admitting her level is too low to stay fully human. Our girl is shaken, telling the spirit to go back to her family, but the fox girl's face falls as she replies, "I don't have that." Seeing the small, shivering spirit, our girl's heart softens and she hands over a fur pelt. "Put this on, don't get a cold," she says, her voice finally losing its edge. She asks if being a monster means she can do tricks, and the fox girl tilts her head in confusion. "For example, keep this stick flying in the air," our girl suggests, and with a simple flick of magic, the stick levitates. A brilliant, mischievous smile spreads across our heroine's face. A plan begins to form in her mind as she looks at her new companion. "You don't have a family and neither do I," she declares, holding out the stick. "Your name will be Tangerine from now on. We will be friends frauds together. The fox girl, Tangerine, looks up with awe as her new friend promises they will share everything, through weal and woe. We can make a fortune together and leave this place. Our girl cheers, dreaming of traveling the world. They huddle together that night, Tangerine listening to the girl's whispered dreams of being rich and powerful. No one would ever look down on me again, she says as sleep finally claims her. Tangerine reaches out a tiny hand to touch the girl's face, whispering the name Hueming with a tenderness that spans years. But the memory fades as we return to the present, where Tangerine watches Yuechin and Xian enjoying a lavish meal. Her eyes narrow with a cold, calculated greed as she spots their valuables. They are strong and rich, Tangerine thinks as she slips away into the night. It should be okay for them to live without that jade ball. The story continues as our mysterious Yuechin and the lovely Xian find themselves at the center of a growing mystery. Night falls over the Wind Tavern, casting long shadows across the traditional eaves. A small, furry silhouette darts across the rooftops with practiced ease. Inside, a black, ethereal fox spirit creeps through the window, its eyes glowing with a ghostly light. While the little red-haired girl is busy dreaming of snacks, Yuechin is resting nearby, completely unaware that a glowing green jade ball is sitting right within reach of a thief. Suddenly, a second visitor, a little red fox, jumps onto the desk and sneaks toward the bed. It snaps its jaws around the jade ball's silk cord, but Yuechin isn't as asleep as she looks, and she instantly grabs the little thief by the scruff of its neck. Go back to your own bed, red fox, she sighs, clearly used to these nightly antics. The fox scampers off into the night, ball in mouth, as the moon hangs high above the trees. Meanwhile, Xian is standing by her window, unable to sleep. She's feeling a bit sentimental, thinking to herself that if her friend Huan were here, they'd be chatting the night away. She looks out into the darkness, whispering how much she misses them. Just then, she spots a dark shadow leaping through the moonlight. It's a fox spirit and it's carrying something glowing. Wait, that's not food, Xian cries out, realizing the little creature is about to make off with something valuable. Back in the room, Yuechin's eyes snap open with a sudden realization. She sits up quickly, looking at the empty spot on her pillow. She glances over at the red-haired girl, who hasn't moved an inch and is still snoring like a freight train. A chill runs down Yuechin's spine as she whispers, "That wasn't the red fox." Under the glow of the full moons, Xian rushes outside to investigate the courtyard. "Come here, I've got food for you," she calls out, trying to lure the spirit back. She catches a glimpse of the fox-like creature hiding behind a wooden pillar, looking totally busted. Suddenly, Yuechin appears right behind her, her expression serious. The little fox spirit is trembling, knowing it's been cornered. Yuechin asks it if it can track the scent like the commander does, but the poor thing admits it's not very good at that. Then Yuechin decides to take matters into her own hands, literally revealing her own fluffy fox ears. Our girl Xian is absolutely floored, her eyes turning into literal stars as she looks at the fluffy ears. "So cool," she starts to squeal before Yuechin quickly shushes her. They move through the shadows in total silence, tracking the thief. The trail leads them all the way to the desolate Wu Shan temple. Inside, a tiny fox girl is sprinting for her life, huffing and puffing as she clutches the jade ball. She reaches a man named Hueming and starts slapping his face with all her might. Wake up, Hueming," she screams. He groggily sits up, asking if she just needs to use the bathroom, but his eyes nearly pop out of his head when he sees the treasure. "I stole it," she chirps proudly. Hueming doesn't share her enthusiasm and thwacks her on the head, terrified the owners will come back and eat them. The little girl starts crying, explaining that with this ball they could make a fortune and finally stop being frauds. They try to make a run for it before they get caught, but a massive shadow looms over them. "Fraud and theft caught you in the act," a cold, terrifying voice booms. It's the commander-in-chief, and with a look of pure stone, he declares, "I am going to arrest you." While our girl Xian and the mysterious Yuechin are trying to navigate this mess, we cut back to a heated confrontation between a high-ranking commander and two unlikely thieves. Hueming is sweating bullets, trying to convince the man that they didn't actually steal anything, but just found it on the side of the road. The commander isn't buying her excuses for a second, telling her that she's the exact reason there are so many misunderstandings between humans and ethereals. Hueming tries to play the hero, claiming they were only trying to solve people's problems, but the commander has had enough and prepares to haul her off to the authorities. That's when Tangerine, the feisty little fox girl, leaps into the fray, screaming for the bad monster to let her friend go. The commander looks down with pure disdain, lecturing them about how their actions are wrong regardless of who started it. But Tangerine is a ride-or-die bestie and warns him that if he messes with Hueming, she won't let him off easy. Seeing no other way out, Hueming decides to get flashy, shouting the power of thunder as she prepares a secret move. A massive explosion rocks the area with a deafening bam, leaving the commander choking on the sudden scent of sulfur. As the smoke clears and everyone starts coughing their lungs out, we shift back to Xian and Yuechin, who are tracking the commotion from a distance. Xian is determined to follow the sound, leading the way into the darkness. They soon arrive at the ominous Wu Shan temple, where a foul smell hits Xian like a truck. Before she can even process the stench, the floorboards beneath her snap with a loud crack. She begins to plummet into the darkness, but a firm hand catches her midair. Yuechin pulls her up into a protective, dramatic embrace. But he's not his usual stoic self, he's actually trembling. "Can you please stay in my sight? I beg you," he whispers, his voice cracking with genuine fear. Our girl is stunned into silence, only able to offer a small, guilty apology. Their moment is interrupted by more coughing as the commander emerges from the fog nearby. He explains that he failed to capture the thieves who stole the precious jade ball, and his usually sharp nose is currently out of commission thanks to that sulfur bomb. Yuechin realizes the situation is getting dangerous and suggests they get out before things get worse. He looks toward the dark horizon, noting that the thieves have fled into the mountains. Under the pale glow of the full moons, we see the thieves' footsteps deep in the forest. Huiming and Tangerine are trying to navigate a narrow path, hoping they can hide since they're off the main road. Huiming sighs in relief, thinking the commander will stop chasing them now that they left the jade ball behind, but Tangerine reveals she actually kept it. Huiming is horrified because that ball is a literal magnet for trouble, while Tangerine argues that having it means they don't have to be frauds anymore. They decide to keep moving as fast as possible, but the forest is starting to feel incredibly wrong. Skulls and old bones litter the ground, suggesting they've walked into a graveyard. Xian begins to shiver uncontrollably, and even with Yuechin and the commander by her side, the temperature is dropping to an unnatural level. She tries to act tough, shaking off the chill and insisting she's fine, but the commander suddenly orders everyone to stop. He sniffs the air, his eyes narrowing as he realizes they've wandered right into someone's territory. Yuechin immediately goes into overprotective mode, pulling Xian behind him and telling her to stand close. Nearby, Tangerine senses the change too, her fox ears twitching as she freezes in place. The air grows heavy with a sense of dread, and Huiming realizes with a jolt that the scent of ethereals is absolutely everywhere. They look up to find the trees crawling with shadowy, red-eyed monsters, and it looks like our group is officially surrounded. The stakes couldn't be higher as the group finds themselves deep in a territory where humans are nothing more than a midnight snack. "What's happening?" one of them stammers, sensing the shift in the air as the forest turns hostile. A small voice warns that the beings lurking here are extremely dangerous, and our poor heroine realizes they've stumbled into a literal buffet for monsters. One monster leers from the shadows, mocking them with the fact that they haven't had guests in a very long time and they're looking pretty tasty. Our girl tries to play it off, claiming she's too skinny and hasn't bathed in years, but the monster isn't buying her excuses. "Run" is the only command that matters as they bolt through the underbrush to escape the gnashing teeth. But they aren't alone for long, and the forest seems to be closing in. Xian and Yuechin stand guard as glowing red eyes begin to blink open all around them in the canopy. "Are those humans on the tree, or ethereals?" our girl whispers, clutching Yuechin's robe for dear life. The creatures slither closer, their voices dripping with fake concern as they ask if the sweeties are lost in the dark. Xian tries to be the reasonable one, stating they were just following someone and will leave immediately to avoid any trouble. The monsters just burst into mocking laughter, finding his attempt at diplomacy cute and utterly pathetic. One shadow creature gets uncomfortably close, sniffing Xian and realizing that he isn't exactly a squishy human either. Nearby, a giant, disgusting rat begins to catch a scent that makes its whiskers twitch with greed. Our girl's heart skips a beat as she realizes the focus has shifted entirely onto her. This one is a live human being. The rat screeches, alerting the entire forest to the fresh meat in their midst. But then the tone shifts from hunger to pure, unadulterated hatred as they recognize the white-haired figure standing in their way. "Isn't she Princess Yuechin?" they hiss, their voices filled with a century's worth of venom. They remember her as the bitch who advocated for equity between humans and ethereals, and they haven't forgiven her for her ideals. Without warning, the rat monster lunges, its eyes glowing with murderous intent as it screams for her power. But Yuechin isn't the type to take threats lightly, especially when her friends are on the line. With a blinding flash and a swish of her power, she slices through the beast, leaving nothing but a spray of blood in the air. Our girl stares in horror at the sudden, brutal violence as the monster's life is snuffed out. Yuechin's eyes burn with a terrifying intensity as she growls at the remaining shadows. "You scared her." As the rat's severed remains hit the forest floor, the rest of the shadows begin to chant for the cat's Needin. Yuechin demands to know what happened to her people and the core they're so obsessed with, but the monsters only care about consumption. Xian doesn't wait for an answer from the mindless horde, unleashing a massive blue energy wave to clear a path. Suddenly, a grotesque spider monster drops from the canopy, spitting thick, sticky silk. It blocks their exit with a massive web, declaring that while the others can go, Yuechin stays right where she is. In the chaos, the rest of the group is being chased by a horde of shadowy figures screaming for food. "Ugh, we're so screwed," they cry as they stumble back toward the main group, realizing they're surrounded on all sides. The monsters label them all traitors and puppets for siding with a human against their own kind. Realizing they're being boxed in and the human is the priority, Yuechin tells Xian to hold the line while she gets the girl to safety. The chaos is only just beginning as our girl clings to the massive white cat, Xian-chan, while they tear through the darkened woods. Xian is absolutely terrified, her knuckles white as she grips the cat's thick fur. The cat's eyes glow with a fierce, otherworldly intensity as the wind whips around them. Suddenly, the forest is filled with malevolent shadows, their red eyes burning through the darkness like embers. "Ha ha ha, she really is the Nine Lives cat?" they shriek, blocking the path with a wall of pure malice. Hyuming isn't about to let these creeps win though, and he unleashes a massive blue energy blast that rips through the night with a deafening boom. Our heroine and the little fox girl are absolutely traumatized by the sheer scale of the power on display. Is this the war between high-level ethereals? She gasps, trembling as the very ground beneath them shakes. They're completely cornered, and the pressure is so high that Xian is starting to think she'd rather die at the hands of her allies than whatever horrors these monsters have planned. A hand reaches out through the swirling chaos, a desperate lifeline in the dark. Our girl screams for them to get up and move before it's too late. The shadow creatures are closing in fast, snapping at their heels, but the giant cat isn't done yet. With a powerful leap, Xian Chan dives into a swirling blue vortex, desperately trying to shake their pursuers through the dimensional rift. There are so many of them, what are those? Xian cries out, her voice barely audible over the roar of the wind. Hyuming grinds his teeth, realizing they've accidentally wandered right into a high-level enchantment. Before they can even catch their breath, a swarm of demonic bats descends from the canopy with a piercing screech. The giant cat lets out a bone-chilling growl that vibrates through Xian's entire body. Our heroine realizes the cat is trying to tell them something important, and the little fox girl screams that they need to hold on for dear life. The cat takes a massive, gravity-defying leap through the trees. Midair, it snaps its jaws shut, tearing a demonic bat right out of the sky in a spray of dark gore. Our girl is stunned by the raw, bloody ferocity of their protector. However, the victory is short-lived when Hyuming realizes they've been running in circles. The illusion is still holding them tight. From the twisted branches above, a terrifying Spider-Woman watches them with multiple glowing eyes. Don't you guys leave here, everyone stays, she hisses, her long tongue flickering with hunger. In a flash, sticky webs shoot out like harpoons, snagging the little fox girl, Tangerine, and yanking her away. Xian reaches out, screaming for her to grab her hand as the world spins out of control. But the Spider-Woman just laughs, her voice dripping with venom. As you wish, I got you, she chirps as she hauls the entire group into the canopy like a macabre trophy. The entire group is suddenly dangling like flies in a massive web. The Spider-Woman is obsessed, shrieking about how she's going to enjoy the cat's Needin, but she doesn't notice the giant cat appearing right behind her. The struggle is a total mess as they plummet back toward the earth, but luckily Hyuming is there to catch our girl before she hits the dirt. We just experienced bungee jumping. The little one whimpers, looking like she's about to see her lunch again. Xian looks up, only to see a drop of blood hit the ground, and it's not hers. The giant cat, Xian Chan, is hopelessly trapped in a massive web, surrounded by dozens of hungry spider creatures. I thought you died in that tragedy, the Spider-Woman mocks while digging her sharp claws into the cat's bleeding face. Xian screams out in agony for her friend, her heart breaking at the sight. More red eyes appear in the shadows as the forest floor begins to crawl. Everyone wants a piece of the cat's power. Hyuming knows they're sitting ducks if they stay another second. Protect your eyes and noses, everyone, run as far as you can, he commands, preparing a final, desperate move. He triggers the power of thunder, causing a massive, blinding explosion of dust and lightning. Through the haze, the white-haired figure Yuechen appears in his human form, blood still staining his lips from the fight. He looks Xian in the eye with a look of grim determination, telling her he'll distract the horde and promising to return to her later. The tension in the air is thick enough to choke on as we find our group huddled in the darkness. The forest is a silent, misty graveyard, hiding dangers they can't even see yet. Xian and the little fox girl, Tangerine, watch the mouth of a cave with wide, fearful eyes, wondering if their powerhouse ally can really handle the threats alone. Inside the damp cavern, the atmosphere is even more suffocating. The situation has turned so dire that even the resident tough guy is visibly shaken, his eyes brimming with tears of pure terror. Little Tangerine looks absolutely miserable, covering her face in shame. I'm sorry, she whimpers, her voice trembling. I stole something valuable from you guys, but you still decided to save us. Here. She holds out her tiny hands, revealing the glowing jade ball she'd taken from Xian. Our girl's face instantly transforms from worry to pure, radiant joy. It's back, she cheers, clutching the treasure to her chest. One of the allies mentions that Tangerine is actually nearly 100 years old, which is a total shocker given her cute appearance. They share a brief moment of relief, praying they can all make it out of this mess alive. But the warm fuzzies don't last long because they're still trapped in a massive illusion and can't find the exit. The tough guy narrows his eyes, his patience finally snapping. All we need is to destroy the illusion, he declares, his hand going to his hilt. With a deafening clash, he swings his blade with such force that the very air begins to crack like a mirror. Reality shatters into a million jagged pieces, and the group stands in awe of his overwhelming strength. As the shards of the fake world fall away, Xian looks around, hoping they can finally find their way home. Suddenly, she spots a silhouette through the fading magic. Xian Chan, the others call out, but our girl is already moving toward the figure. The tough guy's expression shifts to one of pure horror as he realizes the figure waiting for her isn't who they think it is. Before Xian can react, a pair of gray clawed hands snatch her from behind. Miss Liu, the tough guy screams, lunging forward. A terrifying four-eyed demon with a jagged, blood-red grin looms over her, hissing, I got you, Yuechen. With a powerful swish, the creature unfurls massive, bat-like wings and drags our poor heroine into the night sky. Time to eat, it snarls, its long tongue lashing out as it prepares to feast. Xian lets out a blood-curdling scream as blood sprays across the air. But just as the demon thinks it's won, a flash of white light cuts through the darkness, and Yuechin appears like a vengeful god to tear the beast apart. He catches Xian midair, landing gracefully on the forest floor. He's a mess, blood is smeared across his face, and his clothes are tattered, but his gaze is steady. "Don't be afraid," he whispers. "It's me." Xian is sobbing, her heart racing as she tries to show him that she got his jade back. Yuechin doesn't even look at the treasure. Instead, he turns his fury back to the demon, stomping its head into the dirt with a sickening smash. "It's nothing," he says dismissively, though the group looks absolutely traumatized by the sheer brutality of the kill. Our girl's relief turns to horror when she sees the massive, gaping hole in Yuechin's shoulder. "But you're bleeding, you have so many wounds," she cries out. He looks down at his mangled flesh with a cold, detached expression. "No, that's the only wound I have," he tells her. "Others are not my blood." Xian can't stand to see him in this much pain, her tears blurring her vision. She reaches out, her fingers trembling as she touches the gruesome injury. Suddenly, a brilliant emerald light erupts from her hands, surging into his body with a warmth that defies logic. Yuechin's eyes widen in absolute shock as he feels the power flowing through him, whispering a name from a life he thought he'd forgotten. Psyching. The commander freezes as a strange light fills the forest. "Is that?" he gasps, unable to believe his eyes. Our girl Xian is trembling, looking at Yuechin with tears in her eyes as she whispers, "How did you, Miss Liu?" Yuechin's gaze is piercing, her golden eyes glowing with an intensity that feels almost divine. A surge of emerald energy erupts between them, swirling like a mystical storm. Suddenly, poof, the gruesome wound on Xian's shoulder vanishes as if it never existed. Yuechin winces, her own eyes widening in a flash of sharp pain. She lunges forward and grabs Xian's wrist, her voice cracking with desperation as she screams, "Don't use that power, stop." But there's no time to process the shock because the little fox girl starts panicking. "I can sense it, they are coming," she shrieks, and the group immediately bolts into the tree line. Yuechin looks pale, blood trickling from her lips as she struggles to keep up. "Wait," someone shouts, bringing the frantic escape to a grinding halt. "Can't you see that?" they ask, pointing into the darkness. A massive, pulsing purple wall of light blocks their path, covered in ancient scripts. The commander explains that only humans can pass through this barrier. It's an enchantment designed specifically to cage ethereals, and trying to force their way out from the inside would be a death sentence. As they look around, the little fox girl realizes they've stumbled into a literal graveyard. One of the boys reaches for a glowing talisman on a rock, but the commander bellows no. If he tears that seal off, every single trapped spirit in this forest will be unleashed at once. Xian looks at the food talismans, her heart sinking as she realizes how outmatched they are. Just as they find the exit, a dark, heavy presence looms over them. Shadows with glowing red eyes emerge, hissing about being trapped for centuries and their burning hatred for a Taoist faction called the Chu Yao Men. Before the spirits can strike, a massive explosion rocks the ground, boom. Fire erupts everywhere, turning the night sky into a hellish orange glow. A literal pillar of flame incinerates the surrounding woods. Standing in the center of the inferno is a woman with bright red hair, holding a ball of fire and looking completely hammered. "Why are you guys here in the middle of the night?" she asks, swaying back and forth with a drunken grin. The ethereals scream in agony as they are turned to ash by her wild magic. The drunk powerhouse just giggles to herself, wondering if she's getting stronger. Our girl is stunned, watching this lady complain about the fire being too wild, while the group bickers about whether she's actually helpful or just a liability. But Xian can't stop thinking about that name. Did the Chu Yao Men have something to do with her father's death? Yuechin pulls her aside to check for injuries while the little fox girl talks trash, calling Xian weak. Xian finally realizes the truth. Her wound didn't just disappear. Yuechin used her forbidden power to transfer the injury onto her own body. The stakes are higher than ever for our mysterious duo. Tangerine is absolutely losing her mind, demandingly asking, "What recovery? What are you guys talking about? Why did you mention the princess all of a sudden?" Xian, looking as stoic as ever despite the blood on his robes, explains that his pain simply vanished without notice, while Tangerine sniffs the air suspiciously, wondering why Xian suddenly smells like pie face, otherwise known as our girl Xian. The commander cuts the tension, insisting they take this conversation back to the Wind Tavern. Once inside, the robes come off, and Tangerine is floored to see that Xian doesn't have a single scar left from his brutal injuries. Our poor heroine is just as stunned as the rest of them, stuttering out that she has no idea how she performed such a miracle. The commander explains that not only do our girl and the princess look identical, but they clearly share the same bizarre power. He dives into a bit of lore, explaining that the princess's legendary reputation came from her using her own body to absorb the suffering of ethereals to promote equality. Xian, however, isn't touched by the sentiment, grimly stating that it's definitely not a good power because of the agony it causes the user. The group listens as a young ethereal mentions hearing stories about this princess who fought for their kind. But the stories aren't all sunshine and rainbows, as some ethereals considered her a total disaster and the reason for their internal wars. "Okay, that's enough," someone shouts, silencing the kid before the vibe gets even darker. The commander adds that while some believed in Princess Yuechin, others were busy trying to kill each other for profit. He identifies the biggest faction of haters as the Chu Yao Men. Xian points out that the group was supposedly shut down a century ago. They apparently vanished into thin air after chasing a high-level ethereal, and many suspect the current sightings might just be someone mocking their memory. Our girl looks dejected, feeling like they finally found a lead only for it to be useless historical trivia. The commander remains suspicious, sensing that the disappearance of the faction and the tragedy of the cats are all linked to Yuechin. Tangerine gets back to the point, demanding to know how Pie Face ended up with these powers, prompting our girl to explain that her jade ball suddenly grew warm before the healing started. Tangerine isn't buying it, scoffing, "Are you saying it's because of the jade ball? The way you're saying it, it's as if it's alive." A guy jumps into the conversation, explaining that items worn since childhood can actually assimilate the owner's energy. Xian looks at him with pure judgment, asking, "Is that the reason why you said this jade is haunted?" The logic still doesn't quite track for Xian, who asks why our girl has the exact same power as Yuechin. Desperate to sound smart, the guy blurts out, "Maybe she's Yuechin's reincarnation. Their soul became the medium of power." The room goes silent as everyone just stares at him. To his absolute shock, they actually start believing his nonsense, though Tangerine is still convinced he's talking pure garbage. Our girl, deep in thought, asks a heartbreaking question: can that power bring the dead back to life? The commander doesn't hesitate for a second with a cold no. Xian watches her closely, his expression unreadable as the weight of that answer sinks in. Tangerine goes off on another rant, screaming that even thinking about it is crazy because our girl could die trying to transfer that kind of damage. But our heroine just looks down, whispering that it's good that she, as a human, can finally be useful to them. Xian warns her one last time that this is a cursed power belonging to Yuechin, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. Exhausted from the drama, he announces it's almost dawn and heads off to get some rest. The commander shows some rare kindness, offering the scammers a room for the night instead of a jail cell. But as they settle in, Tangerine leaves our girl with a chilling reminder: don't take everything for granted. Even if you're really her reincarnation, you're not her, you're Liu Psyching, you're just a human being. In a hazy memory of the past, we see a young Yuechin sporting some nasty gashes on her arm after a scrap with other ethereals. Our girl Xian doesn't hesitate for a second, grabbing her hand and telling her to let her help. A soft green light begins to glow as the magic flows between them. "Does it hurt?" Xian asks softly, even though the wound has already vanished from Yuechin's skin. Xian explains that she doesn't really know why she has this power, only that she feels like she was born to help others. Yuechin looks at her with such intensity, clearly moved that Xian is willing to take away her pain. But fast forward to another time, and the tables have turned with Xian sweating and pale in bed. She's gone and taken a curse meant for the ethereals, and Yuechin is absolutely livid with worry. "I'm not an ethereal, so I'll be fine," Xian tries to joke, but Yuechin isn't buying the "I just need time" excuse for a second. Later that night, Yuechin sits alone on the roof, staring at a jade pendant with a look of pure resentment. She grips the string tight, thinking that a power that requires such a sacrifice should have never existed in the first place. Meanwhile, a mysterious red-haired girl is lurking in the shadows, watching the mansion with those sharp, calculating eyes. Inside, Xian is finally resting, though her sleep looks anything but peaceful. Yuechin stands over her, holding onto Xian's belongings and looking like her heart is breaking. When Xian finally wakes up, she looks at the pillow beside her and realizes it belongs to someone incredibly dear to Yuechin. The red-haired girl eventually confronts her, bluntly reminding her, "You're Liu Psyching, you're just a human being." This hits our girl right in the feels, making her wonder if reincarnation is even real or if she's just a placeholder. She pouts under her covers, feeling totally useless compared to the amazing version of herself Yuechin remembers. She knows her current power only exists because of that jade ball, which makes her feel like anyone could be special if they just held the right trinket. "How I wish I could be someone special as well," she sighs, drowning in her own insecurities. Back in the present day, the group is finally wrapping things up at the Wind Tavern. A young traveler bows deeply to them, promising he'll never forget their kindness. Even the local tough guy softens up, handing over some expensive protective spells for free, though he grumbles about them being dead stock to save face. With the goodbyes finished, the group prepares to head out. "Oki," chirps the red-haired girl while the rest of the team gets the carriage ready. Xian looks a bit dazed as she stands between her companions, her mind clearly still stuck on the drama of the past. As they start loading up the horse and carriage, the conversation immediately turns to the most important topic: what are they going to eat at the next stop? Xian is shocked at the amount of food being packed, but the others insist it's far from enough for a long trip. Seeing Xian looking a bit exhausted, the red-haired girl offers up her own legs as a pillow for a nap. Xian looks totally awkward and unsure how to handle the sudden affection. The red-haired girl internally rolls her eyes, wondering if this pie face has finally realized she has no shot with Yuechin and decided to just give up. The heat is absolutely relentless as our group travels through the scorching sun. Even the sky looks like it's trying to bake them alive, with the sun beating down without mercy. Inside the carriage, the little red fox is practically melting, wheezing that the heat is killing her. "Can we find a cool place to rest?" she begs, but the carriage is a total oven with zero fresh air. Fed up with the slow pace, the little fox decides to run ahead to scout a spot, leaving our girl Xian alone with the mysterious Yuechin. The tension in the air is thicker than the humidity, and Xian is sweating bullets just being near her. She's worried that Yuechin still thinks she's too fragile after their recent drama with the jade ball. "Are you feeling okay?" Yuechin asks, her voice cool and calm despite the rising temperature. But honestly, the atmosphere is just getting way too hot in this cramped space. Xian starts feeling dizzy, her face flushing a deep red as she struggles to breathe. Suddenly, a cool hand touches her forehead as Yuechin leans in dangerously close. "You don't look well," she observes, her orange eyes searching Xian's face. Xian's heart does a total marathon, especially since she thought the lady was still furious with her. "Are you upset?" Yuechin asks, peering into her soul. Our girl practically jumps out of her skin, shouting that she's totally fine and there's no reason to be mad. She's just relieved that Yuechin doesn't seem to be holding a grudge about their past argument. But when Xian tries to bring up the jade ball again, Yuechin shuts her down instantly. "Don't try to use that dangerous power ever again," she warns, her expression turning dead serious. She reminds Xian that at the end of the day, she is just a human being and shouldn't mess with things beyond her control. This hits our girl right in the feels, making her worry that she's just a burdensome human tag-along. "I don't want to be just a normal human," she cries out, wanting to be useful to her friends. She feels like she isn't sacred or important like the powerful Yuechin. But Yuechin stops her mid-spiral, looking her dead in the eye to say, "You're important." She reminds Xian that they are friends and that her presence matters to them more than she knows. The emotional moment is cut short by a shout from the little fox, who found a stream nearby. The water is crystal clear and teeming with fish, looking like a literal paradise. Without a second thought, the little fox and Yuechin, now in her adorable white cat fox form, dive right in. Xian watches them splash around, wondering why a cat would be so comfortable in the water. The commander explains that the princess used to bathe her all the time, so she's used to it. Of course, Xian's inner fangirl immediately imagines bathing the human version of Yuechin, and she nearly has a total meltdown. She suddenly realizes that since they've transformed into animals, they are technically running around naked. And the fanservice doesn't stop there. The commander decides he's too hot as well and starts peeling off his robes right in front of her. Xian is left screaming internally as he flaunts his rock-hard 8-pack, proving that this dog definitely has some serious bite. In this world of gods and monsters, our girl and Yuechin are just trying to survive. Look at this massive haul of fish they managed to snag from the river. Our girl is genuinely impressed, praising the ethereals for being so amazing at hunting in such a short time. She watches the little white cat, Xian, wondering how Yuechin manages to hold actual conversations with her when she's in this form. With a clean towel in hand, she slowly approaches the damp feline. "Are you done playing, Xian? May I dry you up?" she asks sweetly. She takes the silence as a yes, marveling at how these ethereals can change their size whenever they want. But while she's busy being a total sweetheart, the fox form of Xian is in the back fuming, wondering why our girl is suddenly acting so close after saying she'd keep her distance. Suddenly, the peaceful vibe is shattered as an arrow whistles through the air with a deadly swoosh. It narrowly misses its mark, thudding into the grass. A young hunter jumps out from the bushes, cheering, "I got it." Our girl freezes in shock, clutching the wet cat to her chest. But that arrow didn't hit the dirt. The fox caught it right between its teeth, glaring at the intruder with pure murderous intent. In a flash of light and pure rage, Xian transforms back into her human form, screaming, "Were you trying to kill me, you little bastard?" The commander and Miss Liu can only stare in absolute disbelief at the sudden explosion of violence. Miss Liu's soul practically leaves her body as she screams, "Bon boonhadddd," at the top of her lungs. She rushes over with a spare outfit, begging Xian to put it on because there is literally a child and the commander standing right there. The poor kid is shaking like a leaf, stuttering out, "Are you an ethereal?" Xian and Miss Liu just give him the ultimate, "Are you serious right now look." Xian leans in close, asking if he's actually brave or just too scared to realize he almost became fox food. The commander steps in, demanding to know why a child is wandering this deep into the woods all alone. The boy admits he just came out to find some food and had no idea he was shooting at an ethereal. He bows his head in shame, offering a sincere "I'm sorry" for the near-fatal mistake. The commander sighs and tells the kid to just take all the fish and go, much to Xian's absolute annoyance, as she was the one who caught them. The boy scampers off with the net, promising he won't forget their kindness. Once the drama settles, our girl finally gets to change into a stunning new red and white dress. Xian realizes it's actually her own dress that Miss Liu borrowed, and the two start their usual bickering over permissions. But seeing our girl this happy over a simple outfit actually softens Xian's mood just a tiny bit. As night falls, the group continues their journey through the dark forest by carriage. The commander isn't relaxed, though he points out that a kid couldn't have possibly walked this far from downtown on foot. Yuechin and Miss Liu suddenly perk up, hearing a suspicious noise coming from the shadows. "I heard something," our girl whispers, "I'll go and check it out." They creep through the thick grass to find the source of the commotion. And what they find is heartbreaking. That same little boy is being cornered by a group of men who are aggressively demanding to know where he hid the monster. An angry mob is losing their absolute minds, screaming for blood and brandishing torches. "Turn him in or we won't be nice anymore," the leader bellows at a terrified little boy. Our girl Xian and the group stumble upon the chaos, watching as the kid desperately tries to shield someone behind him. "He didn't kill anyone, there must be some misunderstanding," the boy cries out, but the villagers are past the point of listening to reason. Before things can get physical, the brown-haired officer steps forward and flashes his golden badge. The mob immediately loses their bark, stuttering out apologies the moment they realize they're talking to the law. What exactly happened here? The officer demands, his voice stern, while a villager points a shaking finger at the kid, claiming the boy is harboring a literal monster. The boy insists the monster is just his friend, but the villagers start listing off a body count that would make a slasher villain blush. His child, his father, his wife, they scream, listing the victims of the supposed beast. The leader even adds the ultimate tragedy to the list, and the dog I had kept for most of my life. While killing the dog, that's how you know someone is irredeemable in a story like this. The leader loses his cool and grabs the kid by the collar, but our officer isn't having it and intercepts his arm. I would not know what really happened just by listening to what you said, he states coldly, promising that the case will be investigated properly. The villagers start whispering among themselves, clearly plotting something shady behind the officer's back. They finally decide to back off for now, but not without a parting threat that they'll never let that monster go free. The poor kid thanks our group for saving his skin once the coast is clear. Xian asks if they're still far from downtown, and the boy offers to lead them to a place they can stay for the night. As they walk, Xian notices a bag of fish in his hands. Wait, are those the fish we gave you earlier? She asks, surprised to see him still carrying them. The boy admits he skipped the main road to sneak the food home, which is why he was walking for so long before getting caught. Xian's heart breaks for the little guy, asking if the villagers always treat him like trash. He sadly explains that they used to be kind to him, but everything changed because of his mysterious friend. They see him as a threat, he sighs, explaining that hunting far from the village is the only way he can get food without being harassed. Xian gets a serious look in her eyes, asking if this friend is an ethereal and if he's actually a killer. The boy snaps back that not all ethereals are bad, and honestly, Xian agrees with him entirely. They finally reach the town looking for a tavern to rest their weary bones. But the moment the officer tries to check in, the innkeeper claims they have no rooms available. He looks incredibly suspicious, sweating bullets while he lies to their faces. It's clearly a total conspiracy. Every shop they visit has a ridiculous excuse, from owners' wives giving birth to chefs suddenly disappearing. Xian is absolutely fuming because she can't even get a simple plate of meat and wine. She's ready to use illusions to force their way into a room, but the kid offers up his own place if they don't mind the humble surroundings. As the group heads off on foot toward the outskirts, we see the real reason for the cold shoulder. An assistant asks the boss why they turned away such high-paying customers, and the old man reveals a guy named Chen warned him they were all monsters. Apparently, this Chen guy was born with a monster-smelling nose and knows Taoism, so his word is law in this town. The boss wanted to gather a mob to kill them all, but he's terrified because he realized one of the monsters is actually a high-ranking officer. As they walk through the dark, eerie woods, the group notices strange, deep claw marks on the trees. The boy leads them to a tiny, run-down shack, and our companion is visibly shocked by how small it is. Yuechin, ever the stoic, points out it's still better than sleeping on the street. But before they can even step inside, a dark blur with glowing red eyes lunges out of the trees. Watch out! The group screams as the monster finally makes its move. Org page 0018, in a world where beauty hides a deadly edge, the stakes for our heroine have never been higher. Suddenly, a flash of white and black tears through the forest as a green-eyed monster lunges at her prey. She's a whirlwind of lethal grace, her claws swishing through the air with terrifying speed as she tries to tear her opponents apart. Far from the chaos, Yuechin sits in a quiet hut, her sharp ears catching the sound of the struggle deep in the woods. She turns her gaze toward the door, sensing the dark energy nearby and realizing the peace is about to end. Our poor heroine Xian is still dead to the world, completely unaware of the danger lurking just outside their door. Yuechin looks down at her sleeping face, a silent, protective resolve hardening in her eyes. Back in the woods, the monster is taunting her opponents, mocking their efforts to stop her. But you have a smell that I absolutely despise, she sneers, her eyes glowing with pure malice. One that makes me want to destroy even more, screams Xian, who has finally joined the fray, her hands literally erupting in flames as she prepares to strike. Was it you who did all this? A man in blue demands, his blade cutting through the monster's dark energy. He's even more horrified to see a young boy being used as a pawn in this nightmare, demanding to know why the beast is forcing him to kill. The monster just laughs it off, asking if it's so strange for a beast to want a human snack. She starts closing in for the kill, her hand reaching out to grab another victim. But suddenly, a hand of ice grabs her by the throat, pinning her instantly. Yuechin has arrived, and she is not happy about her beauty sleep being interrupted. It's midnight, you're making too much noise, she says, her voice cold enough to freeze the blood in the monster's veins. Nearby, the horror continues as the poor kid is caught in a gruesome act, snapping bone and consuming human meat. The blue-clad warrior is heartbroken, telling the boy how disappointed his loved ones would be to see him like this. The kid finally snaps out of his trance, his eyes wide with sudden horrific realization of what he's done. Instead of staying to face the consequences, he bolts into the darkness, leaving everyone behind. He ran, is that how he repays his saviors? The monster sneers even as she's being crushed into the dirt. Yuechin looms over her, her face a mask of shadow that promises only pain. "Answer me," she commands, the air around them vibrating with her lethal intent. She tightens her grip, slowly choking the life out of the creature. Blood trickles down the monster's face, but she doesn't stop staring back with those eerie green eyes. She begins to whisper, a chilling, cryptic smile playing on her lips as if she knows a secret they don't. Xian finally catches up to the group, but she can't even speak, instantly gagging at the putrid scent of death hanging in the air. The monster cackles one last time, looking at Yuechin and mocking her very existence, asking how she's even still alive. The tension in the air is thick enough to cut with a spirit blade as the battle reaches a fever pitch. Our mysterious allies can only watch from the shadows as the true power levels begin to reveal themselves. The guy with the face markings looks like he's seen a ghost, gasping, "This girl isn't dead yet." Our girl Xian isn't about to give him the satisfaction of a graceful exit, looking absolutely done with these villains and their monologues. Meanwhile, the white-haired figure, Yuechin, looms over her fallen foe, her voice dripping with icy authority as she demands, "You know who I am." The cat-eared woman pinned beneath her isn't intimidated, though. She's been hunting Yuechin for a very, very long time. With a feral snarl, she lunges forward, shouting that it's been far too long since they last danced. Xian screams out for her friend as the two powerhouses collide in a blur of motion. They square off in the middle of the darkened forest, the atmosphere heavy with centuries of unresolved grudges. The villainess tilts her head, mocking Yuechin by asking, "Do you have amnesia, or am I just not in your memories?" Yuechin grits her teeth, clearly frustrated that her past is coming back to haunt her in the form of a cat-eared psycho. For a moment, the enemy's expression softens into something almost like pity, realizing that her lifelong rival truly doesn't remember her. But the sentimentality is short-lived as Yuechin snaps that her identity isn't important, only the fight is. She tries to strike, but she's suddenly caught in a whirlwind of dark, shadowy energy that threatens to swallow her whole. Our poor heroine Xian isn't about to stay on the sidelines while her friend gets cooked, summoning her internal flames and screaming, "How dare you go after her?" A massive explosion rocks the trees as an ally joins the fray, his blade glowing with a sheeing that echoes through the night. The villainess is officially annoyed now, barking, "Don't interfere," before unleashing a wave of darkness to blow them all away. The impact is massive, sending the intruders tumbling back into the brush. She turns her murderous gaze back to Xian, calling her a black charcoal head as she prepares to end things once and for all. Before anyone can blink, black tendrils erupt from the ground, stabbing right through our poor girl's shoulders. Blood splatters the grass as Xian's eyes go wide with shock, the pain clearly overwhelming her. Yuechin lets out a heart-wrenching scream, rushing to her side and calling out to her red fox in a panic. The white-haired figure is absolutely vibrating with rage now, her face twisting into a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. The villainess just laughs it off, claiming that now that the nuisances are out of the way, it's finally time for some real payback. But she clearly underestimated Yuechin's bond with Xian, because our girl's eyes begin to glow with a terrifying, celestial light. As her true power awakens, Yuechin begins to transform, her spirit manifesting as a majestic white feline of legend. Not to be outdone, the enemy reveals her own true form as a massive black cat spirit, and the two ancient rivals hiss at each other, ready to tear the entire forest apart. The tension between our favorite duo is reaching its breaking point, but we don't have time for a heart-to-heart because things are about to get messy. A white spirit cat stares down its opponent with eyes full of murder. Suddenly, a massive black cat lunges from the shadows with a terrifying whoosh. It's a literal feline throwdown as they start slapping the fur off each other. Nearby, our hero feels a crushing weight in the air, gasping at the sheer strength of the aura. He and Xian are suddenly blindsided, looking like they've been hit by a spiritual truck. I can't move," he cries out as creepy little shadow demons begin crawling all over him. Xian is pinned to the ground, wondering since when the enemy's evil arts became this powerful. Back at the cat fight, the black cat has the upper hand and isn't holding back on the trash talk. "I really don't understand why Yuechin would take in something as worthless as you," he sneers. He delivers a brutal kick that sends the white cat flying. The white cat hisses back, demanding to know how this monster knows Yuechin. Then the black cat drops a total bombshell. "If not for you, Yuechin would never have died." The shock of the revelation is visible in the white cat's eyes as a series of screams echo through the night. Cut to the nearby house where our girl is just trying to get some beauty sleep, only to be woken up by what she thinks is a very loud cat fight. She wonders where everyone went as ominous dark smoke begins to slither through the room. The black cat continues his psychological warfare, mocking the white cat's loyalty. "Why don't you go see for yourself?" he suggests, his shadows creeping closer. He whispers that everything is the white cat's fault, and if it hadn't been for its interference, the tragedy wouldn't have happened. He stares deep into the spirit's soul, declaring that just killing it would be way too merciful. The world suddenly dissolves into a pitch-black abyss. Yuechin, our mysterious white-haired figure, finds herself standing alone in the void. She looks around in a panic, realizing this place is definitely not part of the physical world. Her heart stops when she sees a figure emerging from the darkness. It's Xian, looking hauntingly beautiful but surrounded by a chilling purple glow. "Yuechin," the apparition whispers. The two stand face to face in the endless silence of the void. Xian's expression expression shifts to one of pure heartbreak as she asks, "Why didn't you save me?" The ghost of Xian begins to break down, crying out that she never wanted to die. "Do you have any idea how much I wanted to live?" she screams, her voice dripping with resentment. Yuechin is absolutely losing it, clutching her head as her mental state shatters. "No, I did save you," she whimpers, but Xian's accusations continue to echo through her mind. Her eyes begin to glow with a dangerous, unstable light as the trauma takes over. Overwhelmed by the guilt and the dark energy, Yuechin finally collapses, falling into the shadows as her spirit breaks. The scene shifts as Xian and Yuechin share an intense, silent moment amidst the swirling petals. Even as the world seems to stand still for our favorite duo, chaos is brewing elsewhere in the forest. Suddenly, our red-haired companion is pinned to the ground by creepy black shadows. "What is that guy doing to Xian?" she screams, her eyes wide with terror as the dark energy swarms her. Our warrior guy realizes the gravity of the situation immediately. That evil energy is corrupting her mind and giving her hallucinations. He shouts, trying to fight off the blobs. He knows that if this continues, she'll be completely destroyed by her own mind. Meanwhile, the powerful Yuechin is in a world of hurt, pinned down by overwhelming dark shadows that look like ink on the grass. "Damn it, I can't move," he growls while a mysterious, fox-eared figure looms over him. This shadow mistress isn't just watching him suffer, she's absolutely gloating. She whispers that she did save him, but now she wants him to see a more remorseful side of himself. Yuechin is sweating bullets, his face twisted in agony as he barely holds onto consciousness. "It's better if you look for her yourself," she mocks him with a chilling, toothy grin. With a violent swish of her dark robes, she vanishes into the night. She moves like a lethal blur through the trees, leaving a trail of dark energy in her wake. Our girl Xian is standing alone in the woods, sensing the atmosphere turn ice cold. Suddenly, the fox girl's glowing green eyes pierce through the darkness, locking onto her target. Yuechin feels his very essence slipping away, his form starting to fade as the disappearing process begins. Xian looks on in pure, wide-eyed horror as the nightmare manifests right in front of her. The fox girl lands with a deadly, silent grace, towering over our poor heroine. Back at the other camp, the warrior and the red-haired girl are losing their minds. "Why is she here?" they scream, but they're trapped behind the barrier of dark energy. Xian is frozen, her breath hitching as the fox girl closes the distance. She looks Xian right in the eye, her gaze empty and predatory. Then things get seriously weird as she leans in and starts sniffing Xian like a wolf tracking a scent. Yuechin is watching this play out from the ground, his heart hammering against his ribs as he struggles to stand. He's watching the woman he cares about be toyed with by a literal monster. His eyes snap open, burning with a new golden fire that cuts through the gloom. "Don't touch her," he bellows, launching himself forward with every ounce of strength he has left. He delivers a massive strike, a literal slap that sends a shockwave through the clearing. The fox girl is stunned, her eyes wide with disbelief as she's knocked back. "Yuechin, you aren't dead?" she stammers, clearly not expecting him to break her binding spell. But the shock turns to bitter, poisonous jealousy as she looks at the two of them together. "Why do you always worry about this guy? Why do you always ignore me?" she demands, her voice cracking with ancient resentment. Her face twists into a mask of pure, unadulterated demonic rage. "It's not fair, I hate you," she screams, the text bubble turning blood red as her power spikes. Yuechin can only stare in shock as the lightning-like energy crackles around them. She stands at the center of a vortex of shadows, her silhouette looking like a true nightmare from the abyss. "Stop," Yuechin cries out, but the fox girl is lost to her own agony, clutching her head and screaming that it hurts. A massive roar of energy tears through the forest, a literal bang that shakes the trees to their roots. When the smoke finally clears and the roar fades, the clearing is eerily empty. The fox girl has vanished as quickly as she appeared, leaving only a lingering mist behind. Xian is left trembling, gasping for air as she asks where the woman went. But Yuechin's expression is deathly grim as he looks at the spot where the intruder stood, that mark on her face. He realizes with a jolt of horror that it's the exact same one worn by his killer. The tension between Yuechin and Xian is thick enough to cut with a spirit blade as they face one another. It's clear that secrets are starting to unravel, and our girl Xian can feel the weight of Yuechin's intense gaze. Xian spots something that makes her blood run cold, a specific mark. Yuechin's expression shifts into something truly terrifying, her red eyes burning with a silent fury Xian has never seen before. Nearby, poor Hong Hu is clutching her shoulder, the pain clearly becoming unbearable. "It hurts," she groans, collapsing as the injuries from their recent clash take their toll. Her companion rushes to her side, but he isn't exactly winning any awards for bedside manner. It hurts, can't you be more gentle?" Hong Hu snaps, though the guy is just surprised she still has the energy to talk. Xian watches the scene, her eyes wide as she realizes just how much blood Hong Hu is losing. Yuechin stands back, her white hair flowing as she maintains a cold, hard stare. Hong Hu looks up, blushing slightly as she wonders if Yuechin is actually worried about her. She puts on a brave face, waving off the concern with a shaky laugh. "Don't worry about me, I won't die because of this little injury," she chirps, even though Xian looks like she's about to faint just looking at the wounds. Yuechin isn't interested in the heroics though, she has a much darker question. "Did you smell that person's scent?" she demands, her voice low and dangerous. The air around her begins to crackle with killing intent as she asks if the enemy is still close by. The sheer pressure of Yuechen's anger is so overwhelming that Xian is left completely paralyzed by the shock. Our poor heroine can barely breathe as Yuechen's aura reaches a boiling point. Finally, Xian manages to find her voice, reaching out a trembling hand. "I think you need to calm down first," she pleads, trying to pull her powerful ally back from the edge of a total rampage. Their male companion agrees, noting that the enemy's scent has completely vanished and they need to prioritize the wounded. There's no point in a blind search when the trail is cold and Honghu is bleeding out. Honghu tries to argue, insisting that the person they're tracking is the one Yuechen has worked so hard to find. But Yuechen shuts her down with a single look, her voice softening just a fraction. "I ignored your feelings before. Sorry," Yuechen mutters, surprising everyone. Honghu is immediately over the moon, her face lighting up because her idol is actually showing concern. The male ally warns them that their target uses extremely evil attacks, and he asks Yuechen if she really can't remember who this person is. Yuechen gazes into the dark forest, the gears turning as she admits that seeing the enemy's true form sparked a buried memory. Before she ever met the group, there was someone else by her side. Her eyes narrow as she remembers a name that carries a heavy history, Kunlun. Suddenly, we shift to a dark, ominous chamber where a figure with beast-like ears is reeling in agony. The figure is forced to their knees, their claws digging into the floorboards. "Why did you stop me?" they scream, blood dripping from their mouths. Their eyes are wild with a desperate, murderous intent as they howl, "I want to kill them." Dark energy explodes outward in a violent wave of resentment. But a sadistic laugh echoes through the room. A girl with a terrifying, doll-like smile looks down at the struggling beast. "Why are you acting like that? You're making such a huge fuss," she mocks, her yellow eyes swirling with madness. The beast figure can only growl back in disgust, calling her exactly what she is, a total psycho. Things are getting tense between our white-haired figure, Yuechen, and this creepy little gremlin who clearly doesn't know her place. The vibes are absolutely rancid as they stare each other down in the moonlight. "Why are you even here?" Yuechen snarls, but the little brat just keeps cackling like a maniac. She's actually mocking a powerful demon, calling our girl stupid for talking to herself. The brat launches a wave of dark energy, looking way too smug for someone so small. With a casual flick of her finger, she dismisses Yuechen's anger like it's nothing. Yuechen is reaching her limit, demanding to know why she's being targeted. But the mini-villain is all business, asking for a status report on the boss's orders. Yuechen admits she ran into some problems, her voice dripping with annoyance. The warning is clear, the deadline is ticking, and the boss isn't known for being a good listener. Yuechen can only stew in her own rage as the brat continues to gloat. "I know," she snaps, storming off before she ends up doing something she'll enjoy too much. Meanwhile, back at the village, a confused kid is wondering where the grown-ups ran off to. The scarred warrior finally returns, carrying a very injured Honghu on his back. They try to play it cool, claiming they just stepped out for some fresh air. When the kid asks about the blood, the warrior jokes about her falling into a trap, which earns him a look that could kill. But the real problem is that Blackie is missing. Usually the demon would be back by now, and the group is starting to get worried. Xian tries to stay positive, suggesting he's just out playing. Honestly, they should be more worried about the poor villagers if that demon is on the loose. Inside the hut, the wound looks absolutely brutal, and the kids are terrified. Honghu puts on a brave face, insisting she's not weak like some puny human. She demands that everyone leave so she can wrap the wound in peace. Yuechen and the warrior are forced to wait outside like they're in timeout. Poor Honghu is left alone, wondering why Xian abandoned her. But Xian is actually a real one. She returns to help her take her clothes off for treatment, causing our poor heroine to blush like a tomato. Outside, the kid is pestering Yuechen, asking if her demon nose can sniff out their missing friend. Yuechen just gives him the cold shoulder with a flat no. She tells the brat to go to sleep before the night gets even more complicated. Once they're alone, the warrior drops a bombshell, asking if the mark on the attacker was the same as the thief they're hunting. He suspects she was one of the killers from the accident. "I will definitely find her," he vows, his eyes burning with vengeance. Then he turns the heat on Yuechen, noting that she and the target seem to know each other. Yuechen is absolutely shook. He admits he kept her in the dark because he knew she'd act impulsively. But Yuechen isn't thinking about revenge. She's worried Xian is going to get caught in this deadly mess. Back in the medical hut, things are looking grim with basins of bloody water everywhere. Xian is doing her best to clean the puncture, realizing just how deep the damage goes. She feels completely useless, wishing she had the power to actually heal her friend. But Honghu isn't having any of that pity. She snaps that she's a demon and doesn't need human medical ways to survive. Xian finds herself lost in those deep eyes, the moment feeling like a dream she never wants to wake up from. She can't help but blush as she looks at Yuechen. The tension between them thick enough to cut with a knife as they lie inches apart. Now's not the time to think about these things. She screams internally, shaking her head to clear her flustered thoughts. Our girl decides she has to act while she has the chance, whispering, "If I don't try when I have the power, I'll definitely regret it." It turns out getting her hands on the mysterious bead is way easier than expected since Yuechen is out cold. She turns her attention to the injured Honghu, hoping that letting the bead make contact with the wound will do the trick. But as she waits for a miracle, absolutely nothing happens. Xian is left staring in pure confusion as the question marks practically float around her head. "Did I miss something? Why isn't it working?" She wonders, starting to panic as her friend remains unconscious. Suddenly, a pained groan breaks the silence. Huh, what is it? Xian gasps, her heart sinking as she realizes the situation is taking a turn for the worse. Fresh blood starts soaking through the bandages, and Xian's eyes go wide with fear. Honghu, what should I do? She cries out, fumbling with the artifact in a desperate attempt to help. Suddenly, a strange green glow begins to emanate from the bead. The power is overwhelming, swirling around our girl like a mystical storm. The light envelops Honghu's body, beginning a ritual that looks as dangerous as it is magical. Xian watches the transformation in awe, whispering, "This is..." as the energy intensifies. But the cost of this healing is immediate and brutal. It hurts so much, I feel like my shoulder is about to burst. She screams, clutching herself as the agony transfers to her own body. Despite the searing pain, she doesn't pull away, her eyes fixed on saving her friend. She watches as the light works its magic on the unconscious girl. "I did it!" She cheers weakly as she sees the wound slowly beginning to close. But the relief is short-lived as the pain returns with a vengeance. "Why do I feel like it hurts more than before?" She gasps, the intermittent stabs of agony making her tremble. She realizes that she's literally feeling every bit of the pain she's taking away. She pushes through, determined to give just a little bit more to finish the job. Suddenly, a firm hand grabs her and a voice cuts through the chaos. "That's enough." It's Yuechin, and the look in her eyes is one of deep concern as she pulls Xian close. Our poor heroine is stunned, wondering, could it be? Was she awake this whole time? Yuechin's expression is stern but soft as she looks at her. "I already told you not to push yourself," she scolds gently. "Rest," Yuechin says, pulling Xian into a warm embrace to soothe her trembling. Xian leans into her, feeling the heat of her body and thinking, how warm. I'm a little bit jealous. Morning light eventually spills over the quiet cottage. As the world outside wakes up, blissfully unaware of the magical drama that unfolded. A young boy peeks through the curtain, looking for his big sister. He sees the others and asks if they're finally awake, only to be told to let them sleep a bit longer. But the peace is shattered when Honghu finally opens her eyes. She looks over and sees Xian and Yuechin snuggled up together like a pair of newlyweds. Her eyes practically pop out of her head in a mix of shock and fury. "How dare you take advantage of the situation?" she shrieks, jumping up with zero chill. Xian is caught completely off guard, looking like a deer in headlights. Honghu is still fuming, demanding to know exactly what Xian did to her while she was out. Yuechin just gives them a deadpan look, asking, "Who do you think you're fooling?" Honghu realizes she has a suspicious amount of energy for someone who was just on their deathbed. She stares at Xian, finally processing that the group was actually worried sick about her. Xian decides to make a quick exit to avoid the awkwardness. "I'll leave first, you should change your clothes," she says, trying to escape. "Hey, flat face," Honghu calls out, her voice softening as she adds a quiet thanks. Our girl looks back with a beautiful smile and a playful wink, knowing their bond is now stronger than ever. Our girl Xian is looking at her breakfast like it's a pile of dirt. She complains that they're just eating fruit and soup when they could find much better food literally anywhere in town. "We could find much better food literally anywhere in town," she whines, looking absolutely disgusted by a grape. The big man explains that little Gulu picked the fruit as a token of goodwill, but Xian just pouts, demanding wine instead. Our mysterious beauty Yuechin isn't interested in the wine. She's wondering where the heck little Gulu went. Xian claims she's a recovered patient who needs comfort, but the guys are just impressed she managed to heal this quickly. When she asks why the big man didn't gather more food, he claps back, asking who she thinks made the soup in the first place. They start worrying if little Yu, the demon kid, has gone missing. Xian asks if the kid is really that reliable, though she seems to be the only one rooting for him. She reminds them how cute it was when he shared his food even while they were both starving. But the others remind her that she can't always look on the bright side, since there's a massive grudge between humans and demons. Apparently, the kid gave off a murderous aura last night that has everyone on edge. Xian is totally confused, feeling like the only person in the room who doesn't understand the situation. Yuechin hopes that if they find the kid, they might finally find Kun Lun. Just then, the door creaks open and little Gulu walks in looking dejected. He still hasn't found any sign of his demon friend. The poor boy plans to head into town to search. Xian is worried since he's an outcast, but Gulu knows that searching is better than doing nothing. The crew decides to go with him since they have things to take care of anyway. Gulu gives them a bright, grateful smile. As they hit the town, Xian wonders if the villagers would have reported seeing a demon child. Yuechin thinks Gulu might actually be more worried about the humans than his demon friend. Suddenly, Xian notices things are getting way too noisy for comfort. There's a massive crowd clumped together up ahead, and it looks like trouble. They find a woman wailing over a body covered by a cloth. "Wa-san, why did this have to happen?" she screams. A villager explains that a torso was found in the woods, and it looks like the work of a wild beast. But since no beasts have been seen in decades, the locals start whispering. "Speak of the devil," someone sneers as they spot little Gulu. They surround the kid, demanding to know where his demon is. A man grabs him by the shirt, screaming right in his face. They're convinced the demon killed the woman's son for revenge after being insulted. When Gulu tries to defend his friend, he gets a brutal slap across the face. The mob is fueled by pure hate, saying they should have tossed the orphan out years ago. They decide today is the day they find and kill the demon once and for all. But our heroes have seen enough, and the big man steps in. Xian shields Gulu, yelling, "How could so many of you bully a little child?" The big man points out that the kid shouldn't suffer even if his friend did it. The villagers turn their rage on our group, calling them all demons. They pull out ropes and weapons, screaming to capture everyone. Xian tells Gulu to stay close, planning to escape in the mess while the others handle the fight. But she turns around and sees her powerful teammates actually letting themselves get tied up. Her jaw hits the floor as the screen screams the obvious question: they lost.